and I really don't even care.
Recording is on.
That's the sad thing, that I didn't even care. I'm like, whatever. Bedhead is cool.
Yeah, I don't
I
want to
lost
get
my bedhead today.
a shower every morning just to deal with my hair, right?
Right. Well, now you take the easy route.
Yeah. I suppose this is recording. Hopefully, my Dropbox doesn't get too full.
Right on. I can record this too if you need me to. Although we'll get different perspectives.
Do you use Dropbox to get your recordings, or?
I just recorded onto my computer right now using OBS.
Oh, is there like an app or something? Oh, you're using OBS to use just to.
Have you used OBS for your screen recording? It's fantastic.
I've used OBS once before. Yeah, my son taught me how to use it.
I just use it for screen recording. I know some people do sharing and all that stuff. I don't know how to do all that, but I think it's pretty good software I use. I'm all about free, cheap, easy software that does the job.
Yeah. Well, I have a Zoom account. I had to get one for my wife, anyways. So.
Oh, dude, I have a Zoom account, but it was just such a pain. I kept getting people just popping in from, and I guess this is possible on Jitsi too, but it hasn't happened yet. But I had some, I had a couple ladies on my Monday show meetup, volunteer meetup, and a bunch of guys are in there, like some weirdos, some not supposed to be there, not there for us, and they were just yelling obscenities, and drawing dicks on the screen, and I'm just like, oh jeez, I pay for this. And it was just, I don't know, it happened like 3 times. It's been the 3rd time it's happened, and I'm just like, it just leaves kind of a bad taste in your mouth when you're really trying to create a different environment for your attendees. You know what I mean? Yeah. But anyways, it is what it is. I guess we have to deal with this.
I thought they made some changes or something to secure that better. But
yeah,
I haven't had any troubles with that really myself.
Oh, you're lucky. That's good. Hopefully it doesn't happen to you. Maybe it's because I put it out on Twitter. I don't know. Who knows? Or Reddit or whatever. But you're just trying to get people to pay attention to this is, important. So, anyways, let's talk about what your goals are. I want to kind of learn a little bit.
I thought you would record this and have this go out to the rest of the intactivist or genital autonomy movement.
Okay.
Because you and I agree on some things that I don't think everyone else sees.
Right on.
I've been in business, been a corporate IT guy for ever, and one of the things that I think is true with all businesses is you have 2 things. You have you have a product or a service, and then you have marketing, and you can't one without the other. Just is not a business. It's incomplete, right? It's kind of silly to have a bunch of products sitting in a warehouse doing nothing.
Right.
Going nowhere, just collecting dust.
Right.
But if you can have a great marketing team, but you have no product to deliver or service to deliver, well, you got another problem. So it's been decades, like 4 decades since Marilyn Milos started really getting busy with this stuff, and Rosemary Romberg, and other people have created some great materials, resources, and stuff over the years. But it seems like there's just this huge gap for the marketing side of it, and that's an area where you and I think are both trying to fill that gap as much as possible.
Exactly.
I mean, Blood Save Men, they're doing a bang up job with advertising. Advertising and marketing are a little bit different.
Yeah, they're doing fantastic. Billboards were a genius move. I mean, just because you got a traveling band of demonstrators, you can't stay in one area for long. And so in marketing, they tell you have to be in somebody's face 8 times before they're going to be even paying attention to you. So a billboard with people that drive by it every day is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic idea.
Over and over and over again, I see the same message over and over again. And it would be nice if we were all working together and we just had one single brand. because it seems like we have multiple brands. We have, not just the multiple organizations, Your Old Baby, Bloodstained Men, Intaction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
All great organizations that do very important aspects. I think it's like, it's kind of like the analogy of the military, where you have the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps. You have these different specializations within the branches. And so I think everybody has their important part that they play. But again, I think there, like you said, that we are in strong agreement on is that the product is fantastic. It's the most important product ever created in human history. Well, I guess, there's other issues that are as important, but it's very, very important. And the outreach is the limited part. That's where we're limited, where we have social media, where we kind of like are in a circle, where we all communicate together, and it doesn't really go outside that circle. And that's by design in some, as we can see with the censorship that's happening, is that unpopular messages are just going to be pushed back further and further and further. So the outreach part is the essential part, and that's where we need to have some really intelligent, efficient, and effective thought processes that we can come up with systems that work in these areas, and using the same tools that are, the internet, the web pages that are out there, that the information is just sitting right there. It's like, hey, if it's right there and all you have to do is reach out and grab it, to me it seems like a no-brainer. And that message, I think, is the most important message in intactivism, because that's what we're missing the most of. Is we've got a great product, as far as products, if you want to call it that, but we just don't have that outreach. And I think that's, like, hey, we got Brother K doing outreach, but we need for instance, when Brother K and the Bloodstained Men go on their protests, we need to contact every media outlet in the vicinity. I would state in the state, right? If they're in Pennsylvania, then the whole state needs to, I don't care if you're in Podunk City that's not going to be visited by the Bloodstained Men, you still need to have a message sent to your town that there's somebody in Pennsylvania protesting this. So I think that is extremely valuable and important, because that's the seed that needs to be planted within the people that are going to be talking about this, as this, what I would consider kind of almost like a revolution unfolds. Because in my opinion, unless we have a cataclysmic event that, this, bars humanity from continuing, we're going to have an unfolding of this process of this, what I would, you could even call it disclosure of the anatomy of the male genitals. It's just, how can you hold that back for so much longer? You know what I mean? You're talking about the anatomy of the male genitals, right? This is not like a far out there, we're not talking about going to Mars and figuring out what some, pool of water did on Mars, a couple million years ago. We're talking about looking down at our pants and saying, okay, what's there? What, and if there's, what's missing compared to what is supposed to be there? That's just a pretty simple, basic question. And I think is fundamentally, you can't keep people from asking that question for too much longer, especially with just, even pushing this question on people. Eventually they're going to start to question it, because I think culture evolves continuously. It's like, if you study linguistical anthropology, they actually date writings by the changes in the morphology of the sounds, right? The actual sounds themselves change. The accent itself changes. So for instance, the 1800s English accent compared to the 1800 or the today's English accent, is completely different. The old English is different. We don't sound like the old writers. Even of 100 years ago, we sound differently. So they can actually measure the changes. So it's impossible to stop this change from happening, in my opinion. And this is at that stage right now where we are having a questioning, or kind of like, it's just got to happen. I just can't understand it not.
Even my kids are like using words like sus and stuff like that.
Right? Yeah, they're using
language
words, right?
already. It doesn't slow down.
Yeah, it's going to continue, and that's the thing is, we can reach out to that younger generation. I think that's where, kind of like that Army Navy kind of thing is. We got, Brett Johnson doing the cockfight, kind of going after the younger crowd. Like that's where, one thing that I noticed going into intactivism is that there's a lot of older people, right? And then it almost like skips some generations, and then we have more younger people. But it's like, where's my age level? Where's the 40, 50s, 30s? Where's that group in intactivism? And there are enough of us, but it's just like, I think that the passing of this information, there's been limitations of that. You know what I mean? And that's really important that we share this information. And I think that's another goal I have is to create programs for intactivists so they can educate themselves on the anatomy, so they know, I mean, every intactivist needs to know who Dr. Sorrells is, who Dr. Basio is, and what her research found and what she didn't discover, what she said, her conclusions.
Her
Don't really
conclusions
match her
is
evidence whatsoever. I mean, it's literally a fallacy of basic mathematics. Like literally 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, on this timeline of intelligence, where does Dr. Basio jump off? And what did she actually contribute? For instance, she contributed the fact that there's sensors in the foreskin for temperature that are vastly more sensitive than any other part of the penis. So, and temperature is a very important aspect of sexuality. I mean, you can just, when you're having sex, just pay attention to it. The temperature difference is important, right? And so, anyways, yeah. So people need to know this stuff. People need to know what the frenulum is, what the Meissner corpuscle is. I mean, these understanding these words, you don't need to know a lot of them. But if you know 10, 20 of these words, I don't even think it's 10 or 20 words, right? How long can it be to learn a few words? You can talk with doctors about this stuff. You can talk with anybody of any level of education and literally dominate the conversation, because
I've done that. I talked to urologists and doctors, and it's been great doing the Uber Enough thing, because I pick up medical professionals a lot. And I keep this is the old version of the book, Marinette's book, but the new version is sitting in my vehicle right in the center of the console, so people can't not see it. And the new version is a good bit thicker than this. And they're like, man, that's a thick book just on, on that topic. And that gets the conversation going.
That's fascinating. That's a great way of doing it.
Yeah.
No, like I had some amazing times. I ended up getting kicked off of one of the platforms for just bringing up the subject with a girl who had was all about being like, oh, I'm so like I question everything, and I'm a critical thinker, and like we had this conversation, and I was like, well, what do you think about this? And she's a Hispanic girl, and then she ends up saying that I harassed her or something, and I was just like, what? Like, there's nothing like that even came close to happening. I think what happened is she's from a Hispanic family that cuts, and so there's some conflicts within the Hispanic community. I don't know if a lot of you know that. Upper crust, the upper levels of the Mexican society cut their children, and
I do. I actually had one guy with his little boy that was like a toddler age in the van, and I took him for a good long ride, and he's in the upper crust, and he cut his son, and I asked him why and all that. It's like, when it came right down to it, it's just tradition, and that it's the wealthier that do it. So, but there's tons of Spanish Mexican people in the area that I'm living, here in Southern California. As you lived in San Diego, so and the majority of them don't. And recently, I met with Mondo, look up hashtag Vote Mondo. He's trying to run for governor here in California, and I got some video of him and I talking about he's intact, and he says that Catholics don't even, they don't believe in they believe in dying with all your bits intact, right? You don't, you get buried with everything.
Right.
So the idea of cutting out the foreskin it's just totally foreign.
Right. And it's supposed to be because of Jesus, if you're a Christian, because Jesus was the fulfilled the covenant of circumcision. Literally, that was his purpose. And I'm like, how could you go from, I mean, it's just a total disrespect of who Jesus was if you circumcise your son as a Christian. It's just like saying that Jesus wasn't enough. Oh,
Yeah.
we still need to do the first covenant. You know what I mean? Jesus was circumcised. No, Jesus was the last blood sacrifice, including his circumcision.
Yeah.
That was part of his sacrifice. That was just part of his sufferings, according to the Christian religion. But, anyways, yeah. So I was thinking. One of the things I think we need to work on is getting an organization between intactivists as far as developing it. Because I've been developing databases, right? So I've been focusing on getting databases because I think that these are people that are high value targets that I can outreach to. That, for instance, they have web forms on a website that I can send in information through those web forms and get them into their inbox, right, and have them read this information. So there's these high value targets, and there's a lot of them. The ideas of these of who we could as intactivists target are limited only by the imagination of the intactivists, and we have great imaginations. I mean, I've talked to people recently about starting a Catholic outreach program to the Catholics that are not.
I'm sitting here right now doing the new Catholics Against Circumcision website.
Oh, I was talking with you about that. No, I was talking with somebody else about Christian religion. I'm sorry, that's what I was going to say. So I was talking to you and somebody else about both of you had the same ideas, and I'm like, we have these fantastic ideas, and this is the thing is like, it's almost like we get together and we have these great ideas and these fantastic ideas just flowing out into the ether, but unless we really grab onto them and take a hold of them and do something about them, nothing ever gets done. You know what I mean? And so I realized that, well, there's this big missing gap. And so what I wanted to do is create systems that you can share with other intactivists so that they can take that and run with it, so to say.
Absolutely.
So for instance,
you're all about enabling the intactivists to be.
Yeah. For instance, my MIME database.
Or your meme.
I always call it MIME. Meme.
Yeah.
The meme database. So guess what? Meme database 2.0 is coming out, and the meme database 2.0 is I went and I have to rename every file. So I have them all in folders, and so I went and removed the duplicates, and so I'm going to rename every file, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back through a lot of these and I'm going to cross name them, which is taking me a lot of time. So I'm making sure that ones that were in two separate folders, if I had, they kind of match with parents, but they also match with, men happy to be, circumcised, and they also match with what, so I can put a bunch of those all together. A lot of times you can have, human rights will match with, parents, so I want to have, somebody that goes on my website and they just do a search and they could search for parents, and all those ones that pop up, can be on the same. And then eventually I'll populate those on the website as well. And this is going to make it a lot easier also for me to, so it'll make it easier for anybody to go on my website and search, so they can search and find the actual photos, but it'll also make it easier for me to go on and create this. I have a huge library of data, of information. I mean, there's already, one of my, let me back up here a little bit. I don't want to ever recreate what everybody else is doing. I think
Absolutely.
that it's really important that we don't try to recreate other things, that we utilize the work that's already been done, to maximize our potential. But so I kind of mulled over, well, should I create should I take my database and put it together? And I'm like, what, my database is kind of unique. It's, I've copied my own evolution in intactivism, as well as other men's perspective. Is, I've collected a lot of thoughts of other people that are not really organized in a database. So I figure that just I want that to share that with the world. So I'm going to share it through my database, but also there's going to be links to other databases where you can find more depth on certain areas and stuff like that. But anyways, for instance, if you go on my website and you look up the education part and you go to anatomy, structure, and function, there's some essential parts that I think that all fit together, that if you wanted to have an education in this, you go to that website, your webpage, and you just go down the list from the videos, watching Marilyn Milos talk about it, which is extremely one, important one, talking about Professor McGrath talked about it. There's Dr. Sorrells on there. So all those ones kind of added together. There's also an article about Jennifer Bosio, which is an extremely valuable article. And you can just go down the line, and by the time you're done with that webpage, you will have a fantastic anatomy, structure, and function education. And I want to create more to that. But the MIME database soon, because I'll be starting to populate those web pages, I'll just be able to go on there and then type in the keyword that I'm trying to create the image of, and then it'll pop up a whole bunch of those images, and then I'll be able to just choose whatever one I want. So it's going to make building the education aspect of my website a lot faster and easier. So there's going to be a lot more coming out in that aspect as well of the website. And then we want to create, like I said, a series of 10 videos. It's the, like just for intactivist education, so that everybody that goes through that 10 series of videos, you'll be able to answer anybody. You'll be able to talk to doctors. You'll be able to talk to lawyers, judges. It won't matter. You should not have any qualms or insecurities about your knowledge. I want you to have full confidence in yourself, so that when you go out there, you can talk and when this doctor comes by and says you're you're full of it, you can really respond in confidence. I'm gonna grab something to drink. You can respond in confidence and know that that you can fully answer any questions, because this is inexcusable. There's no counter argument that's good. You know what I'm saying? There's no counter argument that's going to put you on your heels and be like, damn, I didn't think of that. If for instance, and this goes to show about the importance of the education. Give me a second. Is that, for instance, you got these counter protesters, and these answers to the intactivists, and when you first get into activism, one of the first things I heard, one of the things that really caught me was this 20,000 nerves number, right? That 20,000 nerves are.
If it's just 100 nerves, they're my nerves,
right? I mean, that's the most important point of the whole thing. It's still a reduction of nerves, no matter what. But there's 20,000 nerves. So we say that, we come out there, oh, it's 20,000 nerves, and then these counter protesters would be like, man, there's no scientific study that's actually counted those nerves. You're talking out of your ass. You're a pseudoscience, and then they'll start thrashing you. And then you're sitting there with your finger up your ass. You don't even know how to answer that, unless you know how to answer that. So it's really important that an intactivist knows how to answer the counter arguments as well, right? You need to understand how to answer. If you're playing chess, you need, they move this way. You need to be able to know how to move this way. You know what I'm saying? So you need to be able to react on that chessboard. And when you know this stuff, it's like playing chess against checkers. You're just going to dominate them. But anyways, I had something I was going to say. There's a point I had to make, and my mind will just slip out of where it's going sometimes. Okay. So your answer to that. So your answer to the 20,000 thing. Well, first off, I used a percentage because I think a percentage is a lot harder to disprove. So I say 75%. Okay, that's a pretty powerful number. It's people get percentages. We're taught that from very young. People understand that. Coming out with a number saying 20,000 when you could be rebuked and it's actually not a scientifically backed up number, then you're kind of sitting there and you kind of put yourself in a position that, you know what I'm saying? So
what I do is I avoid hard numbers just in general.
Yeah. Well, here's the answer to that. You say, Taylor, Cold, and Lockwood, who did the histology studies, were the ones that estimated that could be anywhere from 10,000 to 60,000. That 20,000 is a lowball estimate of the only person that's ever done an actual histology study that's actually taken a microscope and looked at the tissue. So if you want to talk about who's the most qualified expert to give that number, I would say it'd be Taylor, Cold, and Lockwood. Yeah. And they set up to 60,000. So, that's your answer to that question. And so, it's literally, and then if you actually literally take a step back from these arguments and you look at it from a common sense concept, you're talking about literally half the skin in the middle. It's literally in the middle, right? Your scar's in the middle, right? So that was taken from the middle, right? So it's in the middle of your.
It depends on the way that they're cut.
Of course, it could be from the top half.
If they're cut with the Bell method, then what's left of the inner mucosa is a whole lot less than if you're cut with like a Mogan clamp or Zell.
Yeah, that's messed up.
Yeah, this is all messed up to think about. but we have to because this is where our society is in the world today. But you know, I often respond to these pro cutters with like, okay, well, let's put the ball in the court of the people that should be holding the ball, the people that should be have the burden of proof. Shouldn't be in our hands. It should be in theirs, right? If you were to reset today and say, okay, well, genital cutting was never ever a thing in the past, and someone came today and suggested the idea of it, it would be in their hands to prove that it's good and not damaging.
Well, first off, you'd be burned at the stake.
Yeah, probably.
If this was never part of society, and this is literally like it's like uncovering Epstein or something. It's literally a horrific, horrible thing, right? So if you were to come from a society that doesn't do this, let's imagine this was never part of the world, and you were, I use this analogy. This is my fun analogy. Imagine you're 10,000 years ago and you're a caveman, and you walk upon, or a caveman walks upon, a rabbi doing this to a child in the middle. I shouldn't use rabbi, whoever, American doctor in the middle of a field walks around and sees somebody doing this to a child. How do you think that caveman is going to respond?
Yeah.
That caveman is going to put a spear right through the heart of that circumciser, guaranteed. He's going to grab that child. He's going to rush it to his woman, and then they're going to raise that child. That's how humans are supposed to react.
Yeah.
That's the default. That's the default evolutionary, biological, behavioral trait of a male human, with all of their facilities and all of their just normal. Okay. Mm-hmm. The default state, so to say. And then you add culture and it just fucks everything up, right? But I mean, it's just another analogy I use. I use this with one of my writers. She was another Hispanic girl, but she was, she was not of the cutting type, right? So anyways, I just wanted her to understand the gravity of it. So I kind of came up with this on the fly. I was thinking, okay, imagine if you're a girl, right? And you're in a room and there's me, you, and a circumciser of females, right? Yeah. And this guy is hell bent on circumcising you. He's not going to stop until I stop him. At what stage would you be willing me to stop? Would you be willing to let him cut you to make me so I didn't do something harmful to him? Okay, so at what level would you want me to stop? So I'll say, okay, would you want me to, let's say if I had to yell at him, of course, yell at him. Go ahead, you'll yell the hell at him, right? If I yell at him, he stops, it's great, right? So I'll yell at him, right? Okay, let's say I have to punch him in the face, okay? I have to punch him in the face to get him to stop. Of course, punch him in the face, no big deal, right? He'll be okay. Let's say I have to, literally knock him out. Like I literally have to put him out. Would you be willing me to do that? Yeah, fine. He'll wake up. He'll be fine, right? And he'll be fine. Then at this point I'll say, let me preface this just a little bit. Let me go back a little bit. This guy he's not a mean person. He's just part of a cutting culture. He thinks this is beneficial for you. He thinks it's the best thing for you. He thinks it's going to help you to find a mate and live a happier life. He thinks all these important things are going to come from it, these health benefits and all these other things. He thinks that your protests are just, they're unimportant, and that it's the greater good that he's doing this for. Okay, so he's not a mean person. He raises his children. He goes home. He goes to work. He loves his family and stuff like that. Let's say he's just from a cutting culture, and he was trained from this since he was a child. So he has this one weird thing, but everything else is normal. Okay. So let's put that in there, because it's important to have some sort of reality of what this is, because these circumcisers, these doctors, and these parents, these are not heartless people that are like literally trying to assault children. I don't know. I'm just trying to rationalize it. But anyways, we're trying to create some consistency in the argument.
You're dealing with the guy that was going to let his first son get cut. So
yes,
right?
Yes.
I'm not a bad guy. I just
exactly.
No.
Look at you now. Right? Yeah, look at you now. I was a person that didn't know this for 36 years or 35 years or whatever.
Oh, so you and I are about the same. I was 35 when I was becoming that.
I think I was 36. So yeah, but okay. So let's go back to this. So let's say, okay, this is a person that you might even like in other areas of life, right? He's not a bad person. We don't want to harm him. Okay, but what level do I have? What level are you willing to take?
Yeah.
Let's really be honest with ourselves. This is relative moral thinking. This is stuff philosophers used to do. This is stuff they used to do in universities, before the massive no, you can't have your own thoughts kind of lack of freedom of speech movement that we have these days. Okay, let's say, okay, well, maybe this guy's not going to stop. He's going to wake up and he's going to keep going. I'm going to knock him out. I'm going to yell at him. I'm going to punch him. I'm going to do all this stuff to him, but he's not going to stop. He's going to wake up and try and still do it to you. Okay, what about if I break his arm? Okay, I can break his arm. I know some Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I can snap his arm. I put enough guys in danger of their arms being snapped if they didn't tap. It's part of martial arts, right?
Yeah.
So I might have to break his arm backwards, bend his elbow backwards. That's extremely painful.
Yeah.
Maybe you like this person. Maybe you don't want this to happen to him. Would you still be willing for me to break his arm to prevent him from literally circumcising you? And let's say it's maybe type 1 and 2, not the type 3, not the horrible one.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of confusion within those typing numbers. I think is purposely confusion because never mind. I don't want to get into that right now. But anyway, okay, let me get back to where I was.
You're at.
I can go on tangents and then I'll go somewhere else. I'm somewhere else in the world. And then I forgot what I was talking about. Okay, let me get back to this. Okay, so snap his arm, break his arm. I have to do all that. Okay, now at what state would you be willing? Maybe I have to cut off his arm. Maybe his arm heals and he comes back and he still is going to circumcise you, right? What if I have to cut off his arm? Would you be willing for me to cut off his arm? Okay. Most women, there's going to be some women that are going to say, no, I can't handle that. I'll be circumcised. Okay. It's only my clitoral hood or something. Okay. It's not as big of a deal as his arm being cut off morally in the world. I'm going to sacrifice my body so I don't have to harm this person that I may like or whatever, or maybe even love. Maybe it's her father. Maybe she cares about him deeply. Okay, but there's going to be a lot of women that are going to say, you know what? I'm sorry. He's going to cut my body. I'm not going to allow that to happen. I don't care what you have to do. I don't care what level you have to do, up to cutting off his arm, up to killing him, up to ending his life, right? Up to stopping him from living, because maybe I cut off his arms and he learns how to cut with his toes and he comes after you with his toes, right? I'm just saying, maybe I have to kill this person in order to protect you. And there's going to be a lot of women who are going to be, you're going to have to kill him. Sorry. You're going to have to kill him to protect me, right? Yeah. And if you take, that and you say, well, this male child is just as valuable as this female child, right? Then you should have the same feelings towards that male child as you would the female child for literally the same sexual assault happening to the male child. Okay. So if you care about a human being, well, maybe you just care about the ones that don't have penises, right? Or maybe you just care about the ones that do have penises, whatever. I mean, if you care about human beings, if you're a human being and you're a human being with a heart and compassion, a normal human being, these are normal human emotions. This is how we evolved to live in groups and not, and live in complex societies. That's how we survived back in the day. So we had to have these, behavioral changes of emotions and stuff like that in order to survive through the complex world. But anyways, normal human beings would realize that both children deserve the same level of protection, and therefore it would literally be just as reasonable to protect the male child with the same amount of force it would be to protect the female child. Yeah. And so for all those women who would raise their hand and say, you know what, I don't care, it's acceptable for me to say this, I would be willing for them to kill this person in order to protect me just because our society views it as that egregious to cut a woman, then you would also have to say the same thing for the male child. But, yet.
But we have to convince, people that it is harmful. That,
I mean, it's
that part is valuable. It's not just a, flap of extra skin. As many people put it, right?
I mean, it's so ludicrous. There's literally no thought and no intelligence behind those types of assertions.
Yeah.
It's basically counter to every personal opinion we have of ourselves as Americans, as their cultural opinion of ourselves, right? We are free. We are intelligent people. We have hearts. We care about other people. We care about freedom. We want other people to have freedom. We want other people to have rights, human rights, basic human rights. We don't deny reality just to appease our inner egos. We don't do sexually harmful things or weird things to children. And this just violates everything about a person who, I mean, anything you could claim to be about a person. That's why it's like, it's you cannot lose this debate. You cannot lose this debate. There's no way. It could be Jesus himself.
It's not even a debate until the person that you're trying to debate with is educated.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
exactly.
Someone might come into the debate thinking that they're educated about it, and they quickly find out no, they're not.
Well, the funny thing is that all these people that have absolutely no knowledge of this whatsoever, they just emphatically believe these things that they've been told by our culture is to be true, and they're so invested in that truth that they just act like they know, like somehow they're intelligent about this. Like, it's like they have this same type of there's this fallacy in intelligence where I was actually reading about this, kind of fascinating, where initially people they believe they know more about a subject than they really do, and then as they start to realize that they know less and less about a subject, I guess there's a certain percentage of people that they'll never pay attention to that. They'll never bridge that gap between what they've been told and what they, it's kind of a confirmational bias type of thing, where they're always going to believe their opinions. They're never going to see through the truth until, and I believe this is more of a cultural society thing. It's kind of like a sheeple thing, it's just kind of like, when the herd goes this other way, then they're going to go that other way. You know what I mean? So they're not going to see through the common sense thing. They're just going to jump off the cliff with the herd every time. You know what I mean? So anyways, but no matter what, we will win every debate that we have with intelligent people that have certain standards of academia. So the worst thing is anybody, you can really browbeat anybody in academia with this. That is, all these doctors, you can literally destroy them in a debate. It's just, you can literally pick them apart. I mean, but even my experiences in doing Uber, I had a couple of ones that was really important to me. One was a guy who was a Navy doctor, and he was a pediatrician. And so, I talked to him about, I was in the military, and it was cool because we had 3 other riders with us. There was 4 people in the car. No, there was 2 other riders. So it was 3 people in the car.
Uh-huh.
And there are 2 people in the back, and he's next to me. So anyways, I started talking about, a lot of times when I would broach the subject, I'd be like, so do you consider yourself an educated, aware, open-minded person? Do you take in new information? I ask him, if because I have a controversial topic that I'd like to broach with him. You know what I mean? And I just say, I don't want to offend you because, you're my customer, and I don't want to push my views on anybody. So I kind of preface all the browbeating I'm about to give him. I'm just kidding. But all the information I'm about to give him. So then I start talking about the anatomy, and I ask him about the anatomy. He doesn't know shit about the anatomy.
Yeah.
We're talking about this and come to find out, I'm looking at him and he's white as a ghost, man. And now he is visually emotionally upset. And I'm looking at it from the side, like looking at him like this. I'm like, and this guy's like kind of almost like tearing up. And there's 2 people in the back, and they're looking at him like the same way. And I'm like, so, and I was like, well, they don't have you do these in the Navy. He's like, no, but I did 3 in my residency. And I was like, oh. And like the people in the back, you could hear 2 sighs. Oh,
yeah.
It was like, wow. Like this guy he got it. He listened. It was fantastic. He really listened. I mean, he couldn't not, right? When you ask questions that they can't answer, that's the thing, is like, ask them how, do you know the actual size of the tissue what percentage is being lost? Ask him that. What percentage is being lost? What's the percentage of the nerves that are missing? Do you know about the ridge band and the frenulum, the 2 dense areas full of minor corpuscles? Are you aware of this? That the 2 most sensitive parts are found in the ridge band and the frenulum and the frenular delta. And my frenulum was completely ablated. I have a 4 millimeter scar where I think I was cauterized because it's a dark scar. So anyways, you just throw that stuff in there and it just makes them uncomfortable, and it makes them, it puts them on their heels. And, like I used all those tricks with this guy, and he was visually shaken by the time I was done. That was a fantastic ride. Another one that was really interesting. Actually, two more. Do we have time? I don't want to grab forever. And I know you had some
I'll
things.
just continue to work here on the Catholics Against Circumcision site.
Cool. No, I was going to say is so one that was really kind of fascinating to me was a doctor from she was a PhD, and she studied tissues and stuff like that, histology, kind of regenerate, but she dealt with regeneration, and she had studied bone regeneration. So of course I'm going to use this as an opportunity to ask, about, well, I have my own personal, very important to me, personal, issue or concern with specifically tissue regeneration. Do you mind if I tell you about it? I kind of give them I don't want to just go out there and offend anybody. So I try to, be a little bit PC or whatever, at least to get the conversation started.
I like to let them lead the conversation. Let them ask the questions and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. I mean,
because then if they ask the question, then they can't blame me for answering it. Right.
Yeah. Right. No, that's fantastic. That's why using a prop like that is a really good idea. I mean, I never did that, but yeah. But anyways, so I was talking to her and I was asking her. And I started informing her about the actual thing, okay, she has an intact husband, right? And I started informing her, and she's like, I've never been told this, right? I've never heard this information before. And she's like, and I was like, yeah, I was like, well, what do you think? She's like, well, right now we're starting to do really good at bone regeneration. It's a lot easier. Apparently bone regeneration is easier than other tissues, but she sees that in about, 20 or 30 years that we'll be able to, fully foreskin will have all the information it needs to complete foreskin regeneration. So that was a fascinating ride, just because I got to talk to her about actual tissue regeneration. And here's this doctor who's now knowledgeable about a very important aspect of tissue regeneration. I think, we got to get these doctors that are doing this stuff knowledgeable about this stuff, because a lot of them are going to look and say, hey, there's a huge market right here. I mean, if you just care about money and nothing else, you're talking about how many millions of American men have had this happen to them, millions upon millions, right? 80%. That's a huge number.
So worldwide, we have over 1 billion men affected and over 200 women.
If you took 0.001% of that and you sold them a product, you would be rich, right? So I mean, if you talk about a rave of the future, generation is going to be now. It's going to be bigger than Walmart. It's going to be bigger than, it's going to be huge, right? Invest in that. Put your money in that if you want to invest in something. And at the same time, if you're investing in that, you're also, supporting something that you care about and is important to you, right? Because, think about this. If we start having all these men with generated foreskin and they start realizing what they've lost, you're gonna get a complete reversal of all of this bullshit that we've been hearing so long about men don't complain. You're gonna have millions of men who start to complain, and you're gonna have millions of pissed off men, and then all these men that haven't gone through the surgery yet are gonna be looking at these men, hearing these stories of these men that have, and then it's just gonna blow up, right? It just can't. And then if that happens, then all these men are gonna want their sons to match them with their restored foreskins, right? So they're not going to cut their kids, right? It's just, I don't know, like,
it had to be that way, but yeah.
I'm just saying, that's another avenue of we keep hearing they need to match their fathers. Well, let's restore his foreskin and have your son match you, right? We need to make you're the one with the cut, with the problem. We need to fix you so your son can match you. It's just a joke, a little twist of the words, but anyways, the last one I had, actually, there's two more I could talk to you about. I've had some really fascinating rides.
I've had several myself. Recently, I had
you tell one. You tell a story. I want to hear some of yours.
I had a nurse with a couple other women in the vehicle, and they definitely came across as pro cutters. Of course, they threw the red herring about abortion in there and all that. It's like, well, that's an easy one. You know, both sides of that argument supports genital autonomy.
Of course, right?
Right. Yeah. So they thanked me though for the conversation. That it was actually a riveting conversation, very interesting to talk about. So
That is awesome.
Another one, I have a minivan by the way now, so I'm picking up XLs. I'm picking up lots of people. I picked up 5 guys, and 4 of them, all 5 of these guys are from Canada. 4 of them were intact. One was not, and the one that was not sat up front with me.
Oh yes,
it was an awesome conversation. So I told them all about how things work and all that, and all the guys were in the back were like, yep, So he's like, man, that's so nice.
Damn, that's powerful. That reminds me of this. Excuse me, this Brother K picture of. He's got a picture of him standing next to 2 kids, and one, their mother protected him, and the other, the kid is finding out that he wasn't protected. The kid that found out that he's circumcised face just tells you all the truth, right? And what that was going through that kid's mind. You knew exactly what was going on. And then in the other kid's face was a huge smile, was this huge sense of, whew, I'm so lucky, right? And so it's a crazy image. I just pulled it off Twitter. It'll be going in my Mind Library database very soon, along with a lot more. But it's just a powerful image. Oh, one of the stories I was going to tell you. I love these stories just because I don't think I've talked about these yet. I was going to do a video on them, but you might as well just do it right now. There was 2 stories. One was a lady who was the nurses that the worldwide nurses. Guess what? She was part of the VMC circumcision of the African boys.
Yeah,
and,
I remember hearing that one from you.
Yeah, and I had two other nurses there were 3 nurses and her, and man, I went to town on her. I basically she was like, at first she was giggling and stuff, and then the other nurses were like all about like listening to this, and she was just she just, as the conversation went on, she got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, if you know what I mean. She's just kind of like, but I did not hold back. I mean, I just tell the truth. I just say it's 75% of the nerve. I just keep it simple. A lot of people would make this complex. It's 75% of the nerve endings, 2 of the most sensitive parts. It's full of Meissner corpuscles. It has a mechanical function. Okay,
scientifically proven.
Yeah,
we should have had to do that. But
yeah. I mean, you could say words like evolutionary design to fit perfectly together, right? And then stuff like it's psychologically damaging to children. It's harmful. The best anesthesia you can give won't remove 100% of the pain. Every child that's going to have this is going through extreme pain. Some of them go into such pain they go through shock. Yeah, and show them a book, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Ron Goldman, who is Jewish, by the way.
And I've actually been working with him every single day for the past.
What?
Yeah, it's been crazy. I've been helping him get his social media presence up and going. He lacks technical skills. That's the same reason why I'm doing the Catholic Skin Circumcision site, because Katrina doesn't have any technology skills. But yeah, he's far more. You can check out his website now, Ronald Goldman PhD. He's got links to all of his social media
Can you
now.
pull it up? I can put it on my screen.
Whatever, yeah, sure. If you want RonaldGoldmanPhD.com.
Let's see
he talks a lot. Talks about lots of stuff, not just circumcision. And in fact, even in that book that it's titled Circumcision, there's a lot of other stuff.
What's it called again? What's the website?
RonaldGoldmanPhD.com.
Oh, look at this. This is nice. I didn't even know this was out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've been helping him out with Twitter and not much I had to do with LinkedIn, but
see, he's exactly what I'm talking about. People like this, okay, so we have Marilyn Milos, we have Ronald Goldman, we have so many people like this, doctors opposing circumcision, and all this great, fantastic information, right? But yet this total lack of them getting this information, people getting this information. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. How do
You know,
you market it? How do you get more people to be drawn to go look at it?
exactly.
That's the tough part.
And this is an impressive list of organizations. Huh. Oprah. That's surprising. Oprah's listened to Ronald.
I'd like to see a video of that. That would be interesting.
I would love to see that. I would love to take down my name and shame Oprah page.
I would too. If it wasn't for her Skin Medica thing, everything else she says is that I've seen is great stuff. So, and I'm down here in LA area, so
right.
Hey Oprah, I'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, we would love for you to change your position and join the truth and those who really actually protect children. We would love your apology.
She interviewed this person.
Who's that?
Hida Valoria.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well,
intersex person.
Hilda's fantastic with it. She was actually at the 15th annual genital autonomy event in that I met her. She's fantastic. Great person.
I don't think Hida goes by her anymore.
Oh, okay. I don't even know. Whatever.
Well, those non-binaries,
whatever.
Is an intact intersex person. So.
Yeah. I mean, we need more pronouns, and I'm cool with all that. I don't care what somebody wants me to call them. I respect all people's desires for, the sounds that come out of my mouth that do me no harm. I can call you whatever you want. It's so crazy. The world we live in is like we're focusing on these types of things that literally are. Everybody should agree with all human rights, right? If you understand one human right, you understand all of them, man. It's like, how do you go from, hey, I'm a woman's rights person to, but I don't agree with these men's rights. You know what I mean? How do you do that? How do you say, well, skin color has no change on rights, but a child doesn't have the same rights? It just doesn't. It's mind-boggling to me. Like how if you understand human rights, you can't understand you still don't understand all of them. I think one would lead you to knowledge about the other. You know what I'm saying? But it just doesn't seem that way with humanity. It seems like we're geared towards social conditioning to understand how we should view rights. And I understand that's a big argument of sociologists as well, is that there's a relative morals. But when you read sociology books, and this is what the issue I have with relative morals, is when you read sociology books and they'll say, okay, well, for instance, this culture right here, they have different ways of getting in line. So this culture, you just run up to the front of the line and there's no line cohesion. But in American culture, we have this line, okay? And so that's different relative morals. And that's completely different than taking a child and cutting part of their body off, or sexually assaulting somebody, or beating somebody, or murdering somebody, or stealing from somebody. These are obvious things that we can all transverses cultures, right?
Yeah.
That goes across cultures and across ignorance, right? And ignorance is unfortunately a lot of cultures. Is a big aspect of a lot of cultures. I mean, we can love certain aspects of of cultures, for instance, dance and song and food types and different
lift up and improve and
different cultural things we can love about different cultures. But if you're part of the Danny tribe and you're cutting off girls' fingers to mourn men, let's just stop that. You know what I mean? That's not that hard.
I'm sure a lot romanticizing breasts.
Yeah,
or whatever you want to call it. It's a celebration and we eat and everything like that afterwards. Like, no, you did harm to a person.
Exactly, and there's that should transfer across cultures. So, when it comes to moral relativity, I think that's just a bunch of hogwash. I think we have a natural innate instinct for basic morals, and I think that's part of it's part of our brain structure. Literally, there's brain structure parts of our brain that influence how we behave, and part of these behaviors that we have in order to work within groups, to survive within I think it's called evolutionary behavioral psychology, is how we adapted to have certain behaviors and certain traits. And I think those are a part of being human. You know what I mean? Those are part of our brain structure.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, so that's my feelings on that.
Yeah. So, the thing is, before we can attack culture, or go into the culture side of it, or even religion side of it, we kind of have to start with people with, understanding the anatomy and functions and the value of the prepuce, and then after that, then they can weigh that against what they've been told about there being medical benefits and all that. I can kind of go into how I, went through my process in my head about it all. Dr. Paul Fleiss, I read one of his articles. If I can find it again here.
You have a fantastic library up there, man.
Yeah. Mothering Magazine, there were a couple of these.
That's articles. A real magazine? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I have that image.
Yeah, they don't publish anymore, but a couple of articles in there from Paul Fleiss in there, and he primarily focused on the arguments about the medical benefits, particularly like the whole HIV thing, and went into how, well, this doesn't make a lot of sense because the U.S. has been circumcising for a long time, and we have a huge rate of HIV as far as developed countries are concerned. I mean, there's other factors that factor into that and all, but it started me questioning it right away, and it's like, well, I can't remember. I mean, it's a long time ago. I mean, this is over 16 years ago now, but I can't exactly remember all the exact thinking that went through my head. But it's like it started making me question. It's like, okay, well, it doesn't sound like the medical industry is all agreed on the idea of doing this to children, and this definitely is, especially globally, is not all agreed on. We're not, most of the rest of the world is not doing it outside of religion or deep cultural practices. So that was enough for me to say, okay, well, let's not do it to our sons.
Right.
And then I continued researching.
That's there. Awesome.
And, 16 years is a lot of time to think about, make the connections, and here I am now, wearing T-shirts like this every day.
I love that shirt, by the way.
And walking around with this thing in my pocket, so I can do educational.
Dude, we need those. Where can we get those made?
The place that I got it from disappeared. It was a Saving Sons Etsy page, and I guess the person that made them didn't want to make them anymore.
We need to get those made again. That's fantastic.
I found someone that could probably do it, but they charge a fortune.
That reminds me, I was going to say something earlier. This is what I was going to forgot to say. Is when I'm talking about functions, a lot of times with people, a lot of people go right to that. It's almost like we're given this one function, okay, that they accept, that they're going to say, okay, it does do that, and that's protection. And the reason why protection is because most men are like, okay, I'm fine. Like, I'm not in pain right now. I don't need protection. What do I need protection from? There's no understanding of the actual benefits of that protection. You know what I'm saying? There's no understanding of how it protects the mucosal tissue from drying out and becoming keratinized and becoming tougher. There's no understanding of that. But what I'm saying is, instead of focusing on protection, and I understand that's an important aspect of it, but to me, that's the reason why they give that as an actual function, is because a lot of men are just going to like blow right past that and say, I'm fine. I don't need some protection. I'm a tough guy. You know what I mean? So, but if you say to them, hey, it's half the surface area, 3/4 of the nerves, including the most sensitive types, your 2 male external G spots, and there's thousands of nerve endings that were in there that are no longer there. Plus it has a mechanical function, which makes it so much more pleasurable for both the man and the woman. And this is a reason why 70% of American women can't have vaginal orgasms. When you say that, and then, oh, by the way, it adds protection. You know what I mean? Like that's where you should be. It protects the glands and da-da-da-da-da. That's the last thing you say. You know what I'm saying? But that's usually the first thing that people will say. And I'm just like, no, we need to get away from that, because no one pays it. As soon as you say protection, the brain slips off. But when you say 1/2 the surface area, 3/4 of the nerves, that the brain lights up and says, what?
Yeah.
What? That's a pretty strong statistic. So
A lot of men respond, "Well, I don't want to. I don't want to last less long in bed."
oh yeah, that's the most ridiculous argument. You know how I beat that one is
Huh?
I'll say it's like having an on and off switch versus a smooth accelerator. Okay, when
Yeah.
seriously, when you have a smooth accelerator,
Uh-huh.
you can control whether or not you can just control it by the acceleration. That's why in your car you have these smooth acceleration, you have a slow brake, right? You don't just slam on the brakes, you don't just hit the gas, right? But if you're a circumcised man, you literally have an on and off switch. So when you're going for that orgasm, and every man who's circumcised knows this, when you're going for that orgasm and you're okay, it's ready, she's had hers, I'm going to go have mine, and you're pounding away, you know, it's not the same. It's not completely different than what it would be if you were intact. You know what I mean? You don't have to struggle if you're intact. You control it. You control how far it goes up. You can grow up. You can go down. You can go up in a wave right before you hit the orgasm, and you can drop back down. You control the pace, right? You're the man,
Yeah.
and so you control the pace. And anyways, it's just so the reason why these men will lose it is because you get that stage and it's past that stage. You can't hit that wave and then go back down. I'm going to share this, take
Oh,
off share
hold
screen.
on before you go away here. So one of the things I explained to some is that the frenulum is inside here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the most sensitive spot,
Right.
shown by via sorrels. So when you're like this, it's not even exposed. It's not even being touched yet by
Right.
anything else until it gets inside, and then it's exposed, and then it's getting rubbed. Whereas when you're cut, well, who knows like how much frenulum you have. That frenulum might be getting stimulated too soon, and
Wow.
you actually might be having PE because you're cut. So it goes
Exactly.
both ways.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just going to be more extreme. You know what I mean? You're going to have to create more extreme sensation to have an orgasm. That's why you see cut men pounding away like they're fucking, trying to uproot some concrete with a jackhammer. So, it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's important that people realize that there's much more than just protection. And I know protection, when you're 40 or 50, that's when protection matters to you, because that's at that stage where I'm at, where you're like, damn, the nerves that I have left over, the 20% that's left over, 25%, I had probably a more extensive one than most people, I think, just because of the laxity I have. What was I going to say?
Yeah. I get into comparisons with intact guys and cut guys. You can see the stuff in my interviews on my YouTube channel. But I talk about things like, okay, well, how much inner mucosa do you have? I mean, where's your line at down here? Sometimes our line is way up here, and sometimes it's halfway down the shaft. And I'm like, okay, well, so if it's up here, then chances are you were cut with the Bell method of some sort, whether it's pasta Bell or gum. If you're down here and you have most of your inner mucosa, then it was a smoking clamp or Bozell or something like that. And the upside of it having it down here is that your frenulum area is still more intact. So in some ways you're probably lucky. So, but then they also, like you were saying, the other thing is having elastic skin. Some men weren't cut so tight that they actually have mobility, or that skin is sliding up and down, and others have no mobility when they have an erection. In fact, I'm so tight that when I get an erection, and particularly when I was younger and things haven't stretched out as much, I still get craning, where it pulls up because it's too tight at the top, and I get my scrotum drawn up onto my shaft.
Yeah, me too.
Hairy shaft. So
yeah, and that hairiness rubs the most sensitive part of the vaginal opening,
yeah.
and literally creates friction based stress throughout that area. So a woman who's married to a man like that will develop thicker skin, just similar to the thicker skin that circumcised men get on their mucosal tissue, because it's literally mucosal tissue. And if you look at the anatomy, I'm going to try to pull this up. Let me see if I can find the anatomy of mucosal versus. Epidermis. Let's see. I'm going to try to pull up an image. There's a pretty dramatic image where you can compare both side by side. I don't see it here. Damn. Yeah. Anyways, it's I'll have to find it. I don't see it right now just from a Google search, but it's basically got mucosal surface tissue next to our normal tissue, and it's got like the thickness of the mucosal surface is like this compared to the epidermis, right?
Yeah.
So this little thin tissue is designed by nature to be covered, and every time you find mucosal surface, it is covered. It's not externally exposed, except for when we do that to our children, our children's sex organs.
They only have so much mucosal, tissue, and nose, mouth, ears, all that stuff. So it's not rocket science.
It's not rocket science. I know it's really that simple. That's why I'm like, I can make 10 videos that every intactivist can watch and know everything that they'll need to know to argue with any doctor. And I really want to get more into. I will be asking anybody that can help me with it. The two things that I'm lacking, I'm very good on the psychology, although I'm always open for new information and always open to critique by everybody. So I'm the type where if I have a booger in my nose, I would like for you to tell me if you think there's a better way of doing things. There's no ego here. You say, you know what, this article was good here, but this one sucked. Tell me what to make it. Tell me how to fix it. I tell it to all my volunteers because I'm like, if you don't believe in what we're sending out, then I don't want you to send it out, right? You need to tell me, hey, you could make this better or whatever, and it's that is always open to anybody to critique my work. So, but anyways,
for the viewers, if you want to help out, next level intactivism .org. Is that right?
No, .com or .net works as well. Let me just show you. I'm going to show my screen here again, and then give me a second. I'll show you my web page where you can go to our questionnaire. This is my main page. This is my read this first page. This is just, I love this, but so go through that first page and then read that first page. And then if you want to read the About Us page, it's a really interesting page there. But okay, so I'm going to show you the volunteer questionnaire. So if you go through the internet, this is the volunteer page. There's a video about what we're doing. So watch that video if you want to. And then right here, there's the link right here. So here's the link. I don't know why it's not. Okay, there we go. So here's a volunteer questionnaire. Now, this is the one online, which has just got cool graphics behind it. If you're on mobile, click this, or you should just go directly to this. So this is my volunteer questionnaire. And then this will give you all the questions that, just basically the basic questions that we need to know. A lot of these ones, we got a new response because I just cleared these out a couple of days ago, which is cool. But anyways, just go through this, and this basically lets us know. And a lot of this is planning for the future. So some of these questions, they don't really apply exactly right now where we're at, what stage we're at right now, but a lot of these will in the future. For instance, like, do you want to do your own protest? Would you mind if protesters stayed in your house? Let's say you had a traveling group of protesters that was passing by. If we vetted them and they were all good people, of course, we would vet them to be sure. We're not going to just send anybody, but if you had the opportunity, would you mind? And that's just a way for us to save money if we have traveling protesters in the future, so that doesn't matter right now. But anyways, we do have programs that we're kicking butt on right now. I can go into those if you guys want to talk about that in a second. But anyways, just go through this questionnaire, answer all those questions. And then once I get that questionnaire like this one, I will go through that and I'll respond to you, and I'll get you started on some of our programs. Mostly what we're doing right now is we're doing a campaign to our databases. Let me kind of pull up our databases here. So here are our databases. These are, right now we have 11 or 10 states, the full media outlet of all 10 states. So as you can see, this is California. This has like 1,200 or something. I'm sorry, I need to adjust my speed of my mouse here. Here we go. So we got like 1,200 right here, 1,200 media outlets. This took me probably 3 months to do that, just the state of California.
Yeah, you've got thousands of hours into all your
Yeah, I know. You've helped out
databases.
a lot.
Sure.
There's thousands of hours in this. There's Florida right here. Here's Oregon. Here's Kansas, Nevada, Washington, Arkansas, Oregon, Missouri. And then we just finished Pennsylvania. And guess why? Because the
AAP.
Yeah, right. The AAP is going to be there coming up, and the Bloodstained Men is going to be doing a protest there. So this was 423 media outlets that are completely done. And so let me just show you what I'm doing now. I'm actually going through here and removing all the ones that are events. So we've got event forms here. We've got word limits and character limits over here. And these right here are all the actual web forms. So what I'm going to do is go through here and I'll just activate all these web forms by just getting these links active. And then I'll show you how I can open these up and then send a campaign to them very, very quickly and easily. So right here, let's see if I can click this and then it'll open. I'm just going to pull this away from that for a second. So this is a...
I had a thought earlier.
Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt for a second. But
no,
I noticed you're using clearly a very quick PC, and you're using LibreOffice and all this stuff like that. And one of the problems that we have with getting more volunteers to do things, well, not just this, but kind of two things. One is technical capabilities. Just doing what you do is over the head of a handful, like quite a few people actually that I've come across that are big time intactivists that want to do things, but they just don't feel comfortable dealing with technology, anything beyond maybe their cell phone. And this is the other problem: is there are people out there that's all they have is a tablet or a cell phone, and
yeah, sure,
they're kind of limited by that.
Yeah, you kind of have to have a PC.
They don't have the money.
Yeah, you almost have to have a PC to do this. But the thing I would say is like we don't just focus on doing the projects that we're doing. We want to help intactivists be more effective at what they're doing. So these systems that we've created, like for instance, these the databases I was just showing you. Okay, this is on Google Docs. Like we have a template here I could share with you. This is template for media outlets, but there's a template for almost anything right here. And this template works for. Let me just pull up the template basic. So this is just a simple way of gathering all the information you're going to need. You got contact notes, you've got names, address, you got website, phone numbers, emails, fax numbers, online contact forms, social media notes, and contact notes for ongoing. Then you have a campaign key over here that keeps track of what campaigns have gone out to that group, right? So it's a very easy system. I mean, anybody could do this. You could do this yourself. You don't need me to do it, but why don't I just take this template basic and give it to anybody that wants to do something like this, and you can literally create your own outreach program. We have a series of emails that we're going to write out that we're actually in the middle of a campaign right now. And if you want to know a little bit more about what that campaign is,
you're always in the middle of a campaign, man.
Of course, if you're not in the campaign, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing with your life as an intactivist, but you need to be in a campaign of doing something, right? And everybody is, like, whether it's social media, like I think that everybody has a role to play. Like, I mean, I'll dog social media constantly, and I'll still continue to dog social media. And the reason is because I need to pull some people away from social media that could do what we're doing, because social media is not going to do near as much of an imprint as what this is going to do.
One thing that I noticed in it's been over 3 years or so that I've really gotten active in this movement is, like, in Facebook I was really active at first, and I got some people going and rolling together, and things kind of blossomed there, and more people did more and more things like I was doing. And then I discovered Twitter, and I started being active there and less active on Facebook, and got more and more people going together there, and we collaborated, and learn. We learned our own ways to do things, and now I feel comfortable that there's plenty of intactivists on Twitter that are doing things to be active there. And my latest thing has been TikTok. And
Yes.
when I first jumped onto TikTok as an advocate, there were like zero people out there advocating and taking advantage of that platform. And so I started getting videos from other places off YouTube and stuff like that, and uploading them. And before you know it, now I see more posts on TikTok than I can keep up with, and I'm often tagged in these videos because people know who I am, and that I can help them out with the comments and stuff like that. I can't keep up with it all, but it's great to see more and more people getting involved in these things.
That's fantastic. No, I see it's just an evolution. It's just going to happen. There's no way to stop it. Even if we weren't involved in it, I think it's going to happen, unfold on its own. But I think we can vastly improve the pace of it if we are intelligent and we think smartly about this. So, yeah, I think social media is fantastic, and I'm not I will joke about it being ineffective, but it is very, very powerful. It's what got me into this. Like, I wouldn't even be doing this if it wasn't for social media. So I found out about it on social media. But anyways, I just think that it's more fun to do social media than it is to do a database or to, send emails through web forms and all that other stuff. But to me, it's like the, the, the
To me,
outreach
it's kind of
potential of,
exciting
yeah,
because
the outreach potential of doing what we're doing is, well, first off, the databases are done. Like we need people to send these web forms, right? We're falling behind on sending the web forms. We have the emails written, we have the web forms ready. We need volunteers to send, right? And I'm getting on that. I've got a bunch of people that are working with me right now. I've gotten a bunch more people that are jumping on board, but we still need more. I mean, if we had 25 good solid people, and I'm not talking about, like, I don't want to just grab a whole bunch of people, like, I want people that actually are solid, right? Like, number one, you have to take care of your life. If you're not taking care of your life, there's nothing you can do for somebody else. So if you're, in the middle of between jobs, if you got, a divorce going on, if you got, some major thing going on in your life, you need to focus on that, and we will be here when you're ready, right? So I got to tell all my intactivists is, like, you have to take care of you first. Okay. So whenever you help us, if you're in school and you miss a paper because of this, and then you don't get the job that you would have had, and now you can't give as much money to intactivism, that's maybe your spot in place. Me taking you away from that job has harmed intactivism, right? So I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that everybody that helps us has the time. So we want solid people that are, solid in their life. They're stable, and they're committed. So the committed part is, you're sitting there by yourself, clicking and pasting. Now you could watch, you could have another TV playing something and watch another show. You don't have to, it doesn't have to take all your focus. It's so easy. We try to make it easy for all of our volunteers. We do the hard work for you. So we make it easy for you. But it's not as exciting as getting a response or, getting, 10 upticks on your social media. And this is literally, if you understand what social media is, it's literally plays off of our emotional rewards mechanisms for getting feedback from social feedback. So whenever you get these likes on your post, you actually get a dopamine and serotonin release, this little uptick in your mood, right? It makes you feel good. Well, why would you give up that great dopamine response and sit there and click and paste? You know what I mean? And so that's, what we need solid people that can see that.
What I'm doing, I like doing the work with you. It's always just a matter of priorities for me. Right?
Yeah.
First of all, I have to feed my family and all that. So
Absolutely.
I don't know how much you know about my current situation, but I had to move to Southern California, and I had to move close to the coast because of my kids' health situations. So my income, my costs have shot up dramatically, and my income has gone down and down and down for multiple reasons. One is because I'm spending so much time dealing with my family's health issues that I don't get to work as much. But with this issue, I'm constantly bothered by it. So being able to focus on a career is a challenge.
Yeah.
I could do some IT work that is, to me, kind of brainless. I could just get in there and I know how to do it, and I'll just do it and get it done and move on. But I don't know, doing like, say, like an IT director job or something like that. I don't know that I might get in trouble trying to do a job like that.
Right.
I don't know. So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You got to take care of yourself. I mean, I do security work just so I can work on this full time. So I get a minimal paycheck. I used to make $80 an hour doing orthopedic rehab, and I loved my job. I had a great job as a trainer. Like I would help people get out of back pain and prevent surgeries. I love taking money out of doctors' pockets. I've gotten people off drugs. I've gotten people off. We've fixed people's health. I've gotten people that had. I used to do lab testing, like fun lab testing of like hormones and stuff. We used to do these things called their PCR their genetic tests, and PCR is a type of genetic testing looking for certain genetic codes. So we would look for parasites in people. Like I found a lady with H. pylori, and that was affecting her gut. And H. pylori is a big influence of stomach cancer. So we went through certain herbal protocols, retested. She's free of H. pylori. I mean, how many trainers can say that? So I had this great, fantastic career and this whole thing going. But then I was like, you know what? I need to focus on this because this is my passion and my heart. So I was like, what can I do to do this full time? And I could be at work doing the same thing we're doing right now. So that's why I took a security job. Although we'll have to see how it works in my new place. But anyways, I was going to show you something real quick. This is on my screen. I'm sure people don't want to see these images for long, but I should have moved this, so I apologize. Anyways, this is the blog is where I have the basic actual campaign that's going out. So the first in the campaign was about Dr. Nagawala. Doctor mutilates close to 100 little girls. Genitals in the USA gets off scot-free. Feminist quiet. This is kind of clickbait stuff, right? It's just the title is clickbait. You read that, you want to read the rest. So we got a really good response on that email. We've been using a test email through MailChimp, and I could show you that, but we've gotten pretty close to a 20% open ratio of close to 1,500 emails for the state of Florida media outlets. So a 20% open ratio on a cold email is really good, and these are going to high value targets, right? So over 200 or 300 people in the media of Florida read this, so that's pretty cool, right?
And we just get them to actually put it into the mainstream media, and
exactly. But this is a process, right? We're educating them. So then this one, the new research at Harvard shows psychological harms of female genital mutilation lasts a lifetime. So this is where I think the most important thing is, people understand that this is a very painful thing to do to a female, right? So I wanted to really harp on that, to really push into that, show pictures of it, long-term physical harm, reduced sexual pleasure, painful scars, repeated tears, numbness. This is, if you read this stuff, this is specifically towards female genital mutilation. But if you read it, you're going to see that there's cutting, like for instance, the language I use, the cutting of a child's genital is tremendously painful. The child, I'm not talking about just females, I'm talking about children. So I'm kind of using language that's leading towards, epigenetics. Anyways, this is a very powerful article as well. So it's a 1-2 pound combination right there. So we're in the middle of this one, the second one getting out. The next one is understanding FGM, and this is in order to eradicate it, we must understand it. So what this is, that title is designed to get you to, that's a progression of the idea, but it's also designed to introduce the idea of the different levels and different types of female genital cutting, right? And well, you have to understand it if you want to stop it, right? Yeah. Well, what's one of the major flaws of FGM is that we always assume it's the worst type. It's FGM 1 through 3, all three of them combined in the worst types in the worst way. And that's how female genital mutilation is, but we know that's not true. So we have to get people to realize that there's different types of female genital cutting. And so this is where we go into the different types. And anyways,
a lot of people have been told by the mainstream media just about the worst type, right? And that's
they've been just told about the worst type.
They don't know about the ritual nicks and all this other stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Hardy.
So, and here's a little statement at the end. Count your blessings. I'm a white American non-Muslim woman who was circumcised as a toddler by the same pediatrician that circumcised my brother at the same hospital at which I was born. I have no clitoral hood, only a V-shaped scar and the tiniest bits of inner labia. They were kind enough to leave behind. Anonymous. Pretty powerful statement there, and it's designed to get people to realize that these are, to connect them to, right? Anyways, the next one, and this is to go ahead. Were you going to say something?
You've done a great job with that.
Thank you.
What you put together is excellent.
And anybody that reads these and says, hey, I want to add something to this or take something away, like I said, if you have a better way, a line that you want me to insert, whatever it is, I listen to all people. Of course, if your recommendations suck and nobody agrees with you, I'm probably not going to listen to you. So I apologize. But
now you even had I remember you had a call. I was listening in or watching or whatever, and you actually had people give you feedback as you were writing some of this stuff.
Yeah. That was fantastic.
You're not a total cowboy on this, and I totally appreciate that.
No, I don't. I think it's in order, you have to put your ego in your pocket, when you're doing this stuff, like it's not all about you. And, even our ego about us doing this is an ego, right? So
yeah.
I don't want to create an additional ego to myself in order to meet for me doing this. I want to be the most effective and efficient that I can possibly be at doing this. And I know, maybe I'm not the perfect person for this or whatever. I know I have my flaws and all that kind of stuff, and I'm constantly trying to make myself better. But if you can't accept your flaws, then you're gonna have a hard time. I think making any real progress in any of this stuff, anyways. So I think you just have to be able to put your ego in your pocket and be like, let's do the best that we possibly can for those children, because it's not really about us; it's about them. I mean, that's what we're doing this for. Like, the percentage of me doing this for my own self-validation or for someone to recognize the harm that I've felt, to get their social acceptance of this is it's not that important to me. I mean, I guess it is in some level, because I think that's the only thing that's going to change people's perspective of doing it. But the real reason that I'm doing this is, and I think you're doing that, and anybody that's really doing this is for the children, right? We just can't sit there and sit back and know this is happening to a child.
For other people though too, and these are people.
Yeah.
Parents like me, because as far as I'm concerned, not only were my sons saved, I was saved, right? Because I can't imagine a place right now where I would be, how depressed I would be or whatever, if I would have allowed this to happen to my son or sons. And then learn what I've learned since then. That would be horrific for me. I can only imagine how regret parents feel. I can only imagine.
Right. Well, if you're a true parent, then you're going to regret this if you've done it. So, like if you have normal human emotions, right. And you, I don't know, it's just like so hard to get people to realize this, it's just so much layers and layers and layers of, it's hard for a man to admit this, it's really hard for any man to come out and say, I've been harmed. I'm missing something. You literally have to acknowledge I'm missing something. I'm missing out on the very important part of my body that has to do with the, like, literally the perpetuation of the species, literally the most for every man. Like, this is, when you go through hormones, what are you thinking about? You're not thinking about technology or the biology or chemistry. You're thinking about your hormones. You're thinking about love. You're thinking about connection with that person. That's literally one of the most important aspects of our lives, is that connection that we have with that other person that we love, right? And we share that the highest amount of connection through sexual intercourse. And so if that's harmed, right, like that's very hard to acknowledge and admit. Like, it takes a special man. You have to have cojones, grande cojones. You have to be a real motherfucking man to acknowledge this, right? The idea that the man, like, if you look through our society, right, like, for instance, the idea that men shouldn't cry. Okay, we're told that oh, you're weak if you cry. We're going to shame you if you cry. Okay, think about it this way. Um, if you if you are a man, right? You're secure in yourself, right? Are you going to be worried about somebody shaming you for doing something,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? Are you going to be
Yeah.
worried about that? Is that going to be your driving
Unfortunately, I think it is.
force that somebody might think I'm less than a man? You're literally the process of thinking that through. You're actually not being a dominant alpha man. You're
Yeah.
being subservient to this
Yeah.
other person. You're literally
Absolutely.
you're literally giving you're just literally giving away your manhood by asserting that, oh, because this person shames me for crying, I have to live up to their standard. What? Like a real man, like a real the idea of that being manly, of needing to get somebody else's approval, because they might shame you, is just in itself unmanly. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's like, but that's the literally the cultural shaming that gets men to, posture up, and it's this kind of, toxic male toxicity. And I think that circumcision has a huge influence on this. Like, people think, oh, we forget about it and then it's over with. You went through that pain, it was painful, but you forget about it and it's over. No, it literally affected who you are, what you think. The world around us that we live in today is a different reality because this is part of our culture, and it's so much worse than it would have been without this. We live in a far worse world. I'm saying we could probably. I mean, if you took circumcision away 2,000 years ago, who knows where we would be today?
Oh yeah.
Could you imagine how far less damaged our society would be? I'm talking like you could change, like, I mean, the projection of the world today, from world wars to the societies that we live in today that are just, you know instead of progressing, it seems like we're regressing. We're losing our freedom of speech. We're losing our ability to connect with other people and communicate. It's just, so on the same time we're having this great influence of technology, we're also being, these people that don't want this information out there are also realizing it. And guess what? They're the ones that run the technology we're using to outreach to people. So in my opinion, that's where, like social media is, you got to take it with a grain of salt. It is very powerful. TikTok is something I'm going to jump on. I was watching, let me show you guys this. It's I'll share my screen again so you can see it. Hold on a second. It's the and I don't even know if I can even pronounce her name right. Mogus EV. Can you see this one?
Yeah, they're a German group.
Yeah, they're
And
a German group, and then
I see the guy. I'm forgetting his name right now. Is
yeah, he's on
behind
15
that
Square, right?
group. No, 15 Squared is UK. Mogus is Germany,
Oh, but
and
I think this guy right here, this gentleman right here is he with UK? Is he with 15 Square? I think I forgot his name. He's fantastic. This gentleman right
it's
here.
kind
Well,
of
all of them
blurry.
are, but
Yeah,
I just, yeah.
I'm
But
going
anyways,
blank on the name, but anyways, yeah, he's part of the bodyguards. The
yeah, the
bodyguards.
bodyguards. That's what it is. The
It used to be
bodyguards.
called International Coalition for the Abandonment of Sexual Mutilation, and
Yeah.
I'm very proud to be a member of that underneath the Genital Autonomy Society.
Yeah. Oh, let's talk about that because I really wanted to. I think one of the missing databases that we really, really need, and I really don't want to take on this responsibility. Um, and I think you're kind of doing something like this. Is we need to get a database of intactivists.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So and
yeah,
that's
tell.
why that was when you and I first started. I think our very first meeting that you set up, and I was included, and we kind of figured out right away that yeah, we need a place for people to kind of register themselves, not
Right.
and not something that is on Facebook or something else, but
Right.
something that is independent. That
Exactly.
way, we don't have to worry about them getting kicked off the platform for whatever reason, stuff like that. And we need a way for them to identify themselves as this is who I am, this is how I'm involved, this is this is the things I'd like to volunteer for. I'm willing to donate money, et cetera, et cetera. All of that is included in the Genital Autonomy Society.org website. So if you want to pull that up,
Yeah, let's do that.
you can click on the thing. I know it's kind of
.org.
the org. Yeah.
Yeah, because I did a profile on here, and I've been meaning to get more into that.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too is other than the right now there's just two admins of the database. We're the only ones that see who's in this organization or who's in this database.
Okay, good.
People don't get to see each other.
Yeah.
If someone wants to get a list or get to reach out to the people that are in this database, and they come through me. They do the contact us page, or whatever, and say, "Hey, I've got this opportunity, or I need volunteers, or I need donations, or whatever." Then I send that information. I pass that information on, so it's a double blind sort of system.
See, that's what I was saying earlier is we need to not reproduce systems. So this is a fantastic system, and the last thing I'd want to do is try to reproduce this. So we need to. That's the thing is we're missing that cohesion between each other. Where this should already be linked into. I mean, I should have links on my webpage to this. Actually, let me just say this: is I'm going to have I have a list. Let me put you on the list right now. I'm one of those people that I have so many things going on. I will freaking forget unless I just do it at the time. So let me see what the activism. I have it on my thing. Let me pull it up real quick.
Yeah, I need to add you, I think, to the map.
Yeah, so I need to put. No, what I was saying is there's a list that I developed for intactivist actions, like an action list of things to do, and of course, sign up as an intactivist volunteer in an organization. Another example is set up a monthly low cost donation. So $5-10 a month goes out each month to one of your favorite intactivist groups. Just something like that. So that's just some of the list. Intactivist. Wait, where did I do that? Volunteer list. I hate doing this in front of people on video, but let me try to find that list.
So you're in Arizona now. You want me to have next level intactivism identified in Arizona?
You can. Okay. Let me open this up. Okay, where is it? So one thing about my computer, I put it on my eyesight's getting worse, so I have to.
Yeah, same here. Arizona, I don't.
Okay, intactivist checklist. Okay, so here's print materials, intactivist tiding, education, volunteer success stories, and we need to have let's see, sign up. Genital. Let me just do this. Okay. And that way we can start to develop a list of intactivists. I was going to create kind of like an open source thing I was thinking about using between other people. Of course, I would talk to people first, but let me just show you. Actually, I don't want to show you my list because there's people's information on there, but there's a list I have of intactivists. I don't want to show it online on a video, but there's a list I have of a bunch of intactivists. Also,
there is public information out on IntactWiki.
Okay.
IntactWiki.
Yeah, that's something we need. Guess what I just did? Is I did a whole intactivist organization database. So these are all the database of the organization, and all of these, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah, awesome.
So we got over 67 of them.
Darbon Institute in there, good.
What's that?
You got Darbon Institute in there properly. That's good. It used to be genital autonomy or genital integrity.
Oh yeah.
AIDA, Australia,
Darbon,
yeah. Intactive.
At TLC Tugger, we got Saving Sons, Nature is Sex and Nature. Yeah, so this is all the campaigns that I'm sending out are going to these organizations too. Did you get my emails, by the way?
Oh, I'm getting your emails.
Yes, that means it's working. Okay. Anyways, yeah. So this needs to be part of the steps because I think if we had a list of people, and I think that what I was going to say is that we can go out and develop this list as well. We don't have to just rely on people to just go to your website. Is we can start developing a list that because I want to have access to a list that we develop. so I can use them to get volunteers. Um, so what I want to do is get something like that that page I just showed you, this one here, these these um, these databases that we can start getting intactivists into. Anyways, yeah, I think that'd be a fantastic thing if we had a huge list like this of intactivists with their phone numbers and everything. And I do have a MailChimp set up. I don't know if you guys know what that is. But MailChimp is set up to send email, internet marketing, and stuff.
Spam.
Anyways, I think there was one other thing I was going to show you. I was going to show you how easy this is. Oh, these are the contact forms that I was talking about real quick. I was going to show you this to you guys. You just pop these open. See how easy it is to open these up? And you just go in there and you just, you click and paste in here. Now, these will automatically, a lot of times, enter the information. So just pop it in there. And then subject, Dr. Meter likes kills use. Then I paste it right there. There's always going to typically be some captcha right here. So C2LM, and then I send that. And then I control W, click that one, then go to the next one. Same thing.
Yeah.
Just click it, send it. Bam.
It can be. Yeah.
It's so easy. See right here, I can go into here and I can go to, let's see, feedback, general inquiry. Probably will do that.
Yeah.
And
You think about the way mainstream news organizations work, and they often look for ways to be, especially when it comes to the headers, the titles of their stories and stuff like that. They aim to be dramatic, right? To catch your attention and get
for
your
sure,
eye, get you to clickbait.
Right.
But it's really interesting with this because this is definitely a dramatic thing to talk about the genital autonomy and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like it's too dramatic for mainstream media to cover. They're not covering it as much as I would think they would.
Yeah, and
Here's a good example. I get Google alerts on a daily basis, and I would search for FGM, and there's articles pretty much every day on FGM. But I'm also searching for circumcision. It didn't pop up very often at all.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's damaging to FGM to have FGM singled out from MGM. It actually harms FGM because those cultures that are, 85% of FGM is less harmful than most MGM. So unless you get the type 3 with the infibulation and the clitoral hood removal and I guess the glands of the clitoris, if you call it that, removed, or the head of it removed, and then the labia minora and majora. You know the confusing part I was going to mention earlier. You know why it's confusing? I think it's purposely confusing, is because if you look at type 1 is both clitoral hood removal, which is type 1A, and then also or the complete removal of the external clitoris, which is type 2A, type 1B. Yeah. Well, type 1B is much more damaging than type 1A. Yeah. Right? So then you go to type 2, which is removal of the labia. Well, shouldn't type 2 be worse than type 1B? Right? Yeah. If you're looking at this as a progression of harm. So if it was like reasonable, it would be progressed from most harm to the least harm, right? That's what I would consider. But anyways.
Yeah. We often say there's no regulation around male circumcision.
Mm-hmm.
There's even less, really, from a global perspective, of female. So as I think our listeners would probably recognize that there's a whole array of options. Right now, of the ways that females get cut. It just kind of depends on the culture and the moil or whoever, and they use that word too. They use the word moil. Just some people say, well, there's no connection to religion, and there absolutely is. You study the Abrahamic religions and how it kind of flows down and spreads out into Christianity and Islam, and then you have all these different factions of Islam. You have different factions of Judaism. You have different factions of Christianity, and they all have different ideas about what is right and wrong and okay and all that. And you can even look at it's not in the Quran, but somewhere, I forget the other Islamic texts, but is like it was discussed by whoever that it's good for females to get cut, but don't
It's
cut
in the
too much.
Hadith.
And it's like, okay, well, define too much. It's like there's no exact wording. There's no exact diagram on exactly what to cut and where and how and any of that. On both males and females.
Yeah, it's ludicrous to begin with, even for whatever level of cutting. I mean, just even the ritual nick is an abomination of everything that humans should be. It's like I have this mime, my favorite mime, one of my favorite memes. I guess I got to start saying it right. My favorite memes is of this alien in this alien spacecraft, and this one alien's got a cup of coffee and walks up the other alien. He's like, "There's a faction of humans that cuts the genitals of their children. This planet's got problems, Bert." I love that.
That's a good one.
I love that. It's
definitely a good one.
But anyways, let's see. Was there anything? What else was I going to tell you? Oh, there was one other person I wanted to tell you about. There's one other person that I was going to tell you about. Was a woman who was a researcher, right? So I'm going through this whole spiel, right, with her. Like, when she's one of the receptive ones. I love it because in San Diego there's a lot of people that are in technology and biotech and medicine and all those types of upper level education type of things. It's a huge university there. It's anyways. So I get a lot of people that were doctors and stuff. And this one lady, she was a researcher, right? So I go into my spiel hardcore, like tell her all the truth, 3 quarters of nerves, and I like tell her all this stuff. And she's like shocked. And I'm like, so I literally, she tells me, well, she's like, I'm really embarrassed. I was like, well, what do you do? And she's like, well, I'm really embarrassed. She's like, I do research on the foreskin. So she uses foreskin to do research for like burn victims and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
wow.
Well, it doesn't make much sense to create one victim to help somebody else, and she's like, I mean, but the reaction of these people, because these are the educated people, and I want people to understand this who are listening to this, is that these educated people are in a box. Like they have nowhere to escape the box, right? They've put themselves in a box because they're supposed to be scientific. Scientific means you're supposed to constantly question. Science is not some static thing. It's an evolution of information, right? Of knowledge and information. So it's never ending search or quest for truth. That's what science is supposed to be. And also they're supposed to see past the fluff of social engineering, the fluff of society, we're taught, and they teach them in sociology about enculturation and how the process of enculturation creates these belief systems in people and creates the behaviors that most people display all the time. These are literally culturally learned behaviors that if you take a human and they're just like a computer with no software, and then you just download the software into there, then of course that's the XPut. The XPut is the result of that software. That's just the way it is. So when people understand that this is education, right? Educated people are supposed to be critical thinkers. They're supposed to have logic, and logic is the first thing they should be teaching children. You should learn about an ad hominem is, and what a red herring is, or what a straw man fallacy is, or you don't have to know the depths of logic. You just have to know the basics, right? It's called Aristotelian logic, which was discovered by, or kind of like fleshed out by Aristotle. Whereas if they basically figured out the structure of the debate, if you follow a certain structure pattern of inquiry, then you're going to be more likely to reach a correct conclusion, right? Logic. It's basically logic, right? So, for instance, it wouldn't make sense that someone's credentials determine the correctness of an argument, right? The facts determine the correctness of an argument, not someone's credentials. So if they're a doctor, it doesn't matter if their information is wrong, right? Just because they're a doctor doesn't mean that they're right. You know what I mean? That's the fallacy of the appeal to authority. So it's just another fallacy that a lot of people have. But anyways, if we had this, imagine if we were teaching this stuff to 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds. If we taught them developmental psychology at 8 and 9 and 10, instead of waiting till they're 22, right? Oh, guess what? Those stages of danger that you went through, that's a normal stage of adolescence. Let's tell them when they're 22 instead of 16 when they're going through those stages. You know what I mean? It's just like there's a big gap in our education system. And this is probably the biggest issue that intactivism faces is the lack of quality thinking, quality logic, critical questioning within our population. And that's how something like circumcision flourishes. With, I mean, we're talking about PhDs, medical pediatricians. I mean, these are the people we're talking about that don't know the basic 101 level anatomy of the male genitalia.
And
How?
that's hard to grasp. That's hard to accept the idea that these professionals, these
Yeah.
highly educated people, don't know this stuff. But you start digging into things like looking at medical textbooks and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, they're just kind of going along with the flow. They were told this or that, and they just left it at that. They didn't take it any steps further.
Right. And it's just this flap of skin that has no purpose or value. I mean, this literally, if you think about this, one of the things I like to tell people, and I'm going to get off my high horse and quit telling people what to do, but one of the thing I'd like to tell intactivism to do is don't go for this extremely complex. I'm gonna just click off here, so I'm not. Give me a second. Okay. Good. Okay. So get rid of this idea that you have to wow somebody, or that you have to pull out some extremely complex thing to prove your thing, or the 20,000 nerves, or the Meissner corpuscle. I mean, even though I want you to all to know all that stuff. in rock climbing, there's one of the most important things you can learn in rock climbing, okay, is not to look out there, okay, for the next hold for your hands, but to look down there for the next step for your feet, okay, because it's right there. The next step for your feet is more important than this hanging, this cool, I'm out here hanging off the ledge kind of stuff in rock climbing, right? It's where your feet are placed. And this is a big reason why women are very, very good at rock climbing, because their center of gravity is very low, right? So they have bigger hips in there. So you have these fantastic women rock climbers. And even though they don't have these long limbs, they can still climb these extremely hard routes because it's just, anyways, their body is actually designed valuably to balance itself climbing up rocks, right? Believe it or not, because of the lower center of gravity of women. So anyways, but instead of reaching for this hard out there to grab thing, look for what's right there, what's right in your feet, the most fundamental parts of this. Like this is why I harp on it's half the surface area, 3/4 of the nerves, right? That's the easiest statement to say. And if they can't rebuke that, or if they can't respond to that in a way that they literally can't argue that, then that's all you really have to. I mean, just start to harp on those. All I'm saying is don't make it so complex. Make it simple. Make your arguments simple. Keep your arguments very basic. If someone says something ridiculous, keep your response as ridiculous.
Yeah. And I do that in two ways. Like for when it comes to religion, I say, I'm not a religious scholar, but I believe religious freedom is, it trumps it all. I don't care what it says in whatever in textbooks. Religious freedom comes first, and as far as I'm concerned, my religious freedom was
violated
on, and I'm living my entire life with that violation. I can't undo that. And when it comes to these important medical benefits, they're all about cutting off something to prevent that something from becoming infected. If you use that logic for that, then you can use that logic for cutting off all sorts of body parts. So
right?
It's just bad. That's just totally bad logic. It might become infected, and the chances are pretty freaking low. And pretty much every single thing that it can be infected with is treatable. And that's
right?
it. You don't really need to go into the depths of, oh, it's this percentage of UTIs, this percentage of
Exactly.
HIV, and all that. It's like, who cares? It's too freaking low to, and that body part is valuable. So,
I like to say that the results are the benefits. If they were 400% true, they would still be trivial. And I would still not give up 75% of the nerve endings are the most valuable part of my body, for these trivial medical benefits. And part of them are actually are based off the idea that, well, number one, that men can't clean themselves, and number two, that men can't make valid sexual choices.
yeah.
That we can't be trusted to make our own sexual choices. Like it's just the level of ridiculousness that the other side is lodged in and depends on for their level of thinking is so low. It's almost like beyond the, you've heard that it's too good to be true, right? This is almost too stupid to be true.
Yeah.
And therefore can't even believe it's true. It's the idea. I'm going to say this. I know you're going to say something. It's the idea of the emperor has no clothes. Like the emperor is literally butt ass naked walking across the stage. I see his fucking balls hanging down. I see the hair from the crack of his ass. Yeah. And you're going to tell me that you don't see the same thing? Like, I mean, it's literally that crazy. It's literally like up is down, black is white. The level of brainwashing, and it's like that saying that conditioning or culture can condition to anybody to any level of atrocity. Yeah. Who said that? Oh, I forgot who said that.
I know the saying, but those the people that use the STIs excuse are just as bad, if not worse, than the people in those FGM cultures that claim that they have to do the sewing up thing because they can't trust their daughters.
Right.
To not be promiscuous. It's like you can't trust your boys to not be, unsafe sexually. Well, you want to control their sexuality when they become, adult men.
As soon as he gets an opportunity, he's going to go have sex with somebody with HIV. We got to protect him. That 60% reduction, and it's just astronomically weak. And that's the thing is their house is made in sand. Their foundation is in sand. It's weak. It's undeniable. You can't lose a debate. You will win every debate if you have the basic level of knowledge. And eventually, and hopefully very soon, we will have a series of 10 videos for every intactivist to at least cover the bases so that the basics. I'll give them to you right now. All that you need to know. Okay, you need to know. Well, I'm going to just give you some fundamentals, just so you could have. This is all you really need to know. Sorrells, Basio, Taylor, Colden, Lockwood. Those are the names you need to know, right? Sorrells, Basio, Taylor, Colden, Lockwood. If you know them, you're going to understand that important aspect of this anatomy, structure, and function. You've got to know Meissner corpuscles, right? That's the types of nerve endings. You should know Pacinian and all the other different types, but the most important one is Meissner corpuscles. You need to know they're in the ridge band and the frenular delta. And the last thing that you probably need to know is that what's called the blandal prepubal lamina is the tissue that adheres the foreskin to the glands because forced retraction is a very important issue. Okay, as soon as you protect that child, the next stage is now you got to protect that child again. Yeah. Okay, it's not over. You can't just go, whew, we're done. You have to take the next step, and that next step is, okay, now that you're going to have an intact child, you have to know how to protect that child from forced retraction. So knowing something like the balinal prepubal lamina, it's just stupid. It's a simple, stupid word. Okay, balano. I think it has to do with the area. I don't know the actual history behind balano, but I think it's just the general area, balano area, whatever. I don't know. Find out if you need to. Prepubertal means it happened before puberty, right? So that tissue, it breaks sometimes at around or will be degraded sometimes around 10 up to 18 years of age, but the median is about 10 years of age, right? So prepubertal lamina, it's a tissue, right? A lamina. It's a tissue that adheres one tissue to another. It's called a lamina. So you got the balinal prepubertal lamina. If you just memorize those little simple words, right, you can literally diffuse any argument about this stuff. And if you just know the like this basic, let me share my screen again.
I would add one thing. If you get anyone coming back with any paper that has Brian Morris's name on it, Just like, go watch the American Circumcision documentary and pay attention to one thing that dummy says. It's just touch. It doesn't matter much.
Yeah, right.
What?
No, listen to this. In Jennifer Bazio's statement, she said that Meissner corpuscles are not important to sexual feeling. But yet your lips, right? Have your lips, if you've ever kissed somebody, you've experienced Meissner corpuscles making you feel sexual feelings, right? That's literally what it is.
Where in her own study did she figure that out?
Oh man, there's some
come from her? She just pulled it out of her butt.
There's some weak study that she has listed in her references that Meissner corpuscles start to lower past 50 years of age. They start to lower in number, and so therefore it can't be important in sexual function. But guess what? Like you said, if it's 100, it's still important, right? I mean, Meissner corpuscles are what makes your lips feel good, what makes your fingers feel good when you give somebody a massage. So that feedback you're getting when you're massaging somebody, that feel-good feedback of giving them a massage, that's from your Meissner corpuscles in your fingers. I mean, your lips when you kiss, that's Meissner corpuscles. You're literally missing the lips. If you are a circumcised man, you are literally missing the lips of your genitals, right? The most sensitive part. And it's literally crazy for these doctors to make these ridiculous assumptions. Now, remember this: Jennifer Bazio is part of the Queensland University up in Canada. She's part of they have a sexologist group up there. She's actually a researcher of sex.
Yeah, interesting.
Yet this researcher of sex can't make the logical leap that, hey, our bodies of 150 million years of evolution, every mammal species has it. It's there for a reason. She can't make that logical step that we're designed perfectly by evolution to fit together. This is a person with a PhD in sexology. I mean, it would be like, if you're top mechanic at the let's say, what's the top mechanic type of thing, like where those huge cars that run around, those, whoever didn't know how to change an oil, to your basic Honda, right? It doesn't matter if you know how to rebuild a transmission if you can't change the oil. You know what I mean? It's just ludicrous. It's just fundamentally, at its most fundamental basics, it's just logically inept. And
when it comes to sexual function, I think that a lot of researchers or whoever think of when they think of sexual function, it's like, okay, can you get the person impregnated? Well, yeah, you can cut off a lot of tissue off of the penis and you still get to ejaculation. If that's all your goal is just impregnate someone, I feel sorry for you.
Well, it's like who said this? I think it was Ron Goldman, maybe. I forgot who said this, but he's like, no, I know it was Marilyn Milos, but I think she was quoting Ron Goldman. Anyways, they said that, you're talking about the organ of reproduction. This is one of the most important organs of our bodies. We wouldn't literally be here if it wasn't for the organs of reproduction. Yeah. If you think nature is going to make a consistent mistake in the organ of reproduction, you have no concept of natural selection or adaptation to environments. I've studied plenty of science, and I was actually going to become a medical doctor. So I took all the prerequisites for medicine. So I have all my prerequisites done. I've taken my biochem and my chemistry and all that kind of stuff, and my anatomy and physiology, all those courses. And where was I going with this? Man, my mind sometimes this happens to me. I'm just like going on along a train, and there's just my brain just skip tracks, and I'm just like,
about what Marilyn Milos said.
No, yeah, it was what Marilyn Milos said. She said, it's ridiculous to think that the organ of reproduction is made somehow faulty by evolution. You don't understand evolution if you think that. I mean, this is basic biology, 101 level biology. This is something a fifth grader should understand. Oh. If you've passed fifth grade logic, if you've passed fifth grade biology, and you've passed third grade arithmetic, you have all the information you need to figure this out through a priori thinking. And a priori is just using your brain. Okay, so thinking this through, if you in a basic level of anatomy, you do have to know that it's half the surface area that's the most sensitive tarps. Like, if you just think it's a bland, flap of tissue that's just dangling off the end of your penis, then you're gonna, you're not gonna be able to really have any correct assumptions made based off of that. But I mean, it's just common sense, literally. it is the most ridiculous thing our society does with
Some
absolutely.
people will claim things like, "Well, it's vestigial," or I've seen papers of doctors or whoever say that it's vestigial. I don't know where they get that idea from, but it's when I got my appendectomy, they were like, "Well, we don't know. We think that the appendix doesn't have any um, use anymore." So and it's vestigial. Well, since then, things have changed and they've found that there is function to it. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, you would literally have to question the logic of anybody that would come to such an assumption that the appendix has no value. I mean, just the major logical flaw in such an assumption is that one knows all the information that one needs to know to make that type of assumption, right? And it's just kind of like it's just a person's ego is all it is. It's a person who thinks they're smarter than other people because they went to this schooling, and therefore they base their ego upon their level of education that they've reached, and therefore their assumptions are literally false. One of my favorite teachers, and I wish he would listen to his own advice, Paul Chek, says, "Don't let your education get in the way of your thinking." Okay, and that's a fantastic level of advice. Unfortunately, Paul doesn't use his own advice because I've talked to him about circumcision, and he seems to be uh, very joyful to be completely ignorant of the important facts of how damaging this is in our society, which is crazy to me because he's one of the people that Paul Chek. I don't know. Probably most people don't ever heard of him. But if you're a personal trainer, he teaches one of the highest level courses for personal training. And in fact, anybody that's listening to this, if you have back problems, neck problems, I used to fix those. That was my job as a Chek practitioner. Go to checkconnect.com, CHEK, not no CK. There's CHEK, so there's no C. There's no second C. And get a Chek practitioner, and they will fix your body in ways that'll blow your mind. But you'll never move or feel better in your life than after you've been worked on by a Chek practitioner. So Paul Chek is a fantastic educator. He gets into all kinds of things far beyond just the personal training aspect of sides, but he was one of the best when it comes to knowledge of the physical structure of the body, like correcting imbalances through exercises, which is traditionally is a lot of that's reserved for physical therapists. But physical therapists have this knowledge that wasn't being used, and Paul Chek realized this and said, instead of waiting for someone to get injured before we teach them this stuff, let's teach it to them before we get injured, and that's what he created Chek practitioners. Anyways, so he had that statement that you kind of remind me of. But don't let your education get in the way of your learning. It's a very important concept because I think part of our whole personalities is this need, this incessant, strong, extremely powerful drive to get social acceptance through other humans, right? We just need this. We crave this. Joe Rogan put it in perspective when he said, if you take a prisoner, right? This is a person, let's say you're just a normal person, you get charged with a crime, you go to prison. Well, you're surrounded with rapists, murderers, thugs, thieves, people that have done horrible things to other people. But the worst thing you could do to a prisoner is put him in solitary confinement. That is actual torture to a human. That is actual torture to a human. To take him away from these thugs and rapists and murderers and put him in solitary confinement. The worst thing you could do to somebody is to take him away from thugs and murderers and rapists and put him in solitary confinement. What? I mean, that doesn't make sense, right? But that's actually, a very well known in the prison community that's how they punish prisoners. They take them away from the general population. I guess we're just wrapped up in our own minds at that stage, and it's actually, they've done studies on, because they used to do this to chimpanzees where they would put them in these cages for long periods of time, these animals that they would use for research. And they would put these chimpanzees in these cages for long periods of time, and they would develop psychosis over time. So one of the things was they would do these repeated movements, like a rocking behavior. They would just rock back and forth. They would tap themselves repeatedly, and they would lose the ability to then go back and merge into their own societies and have normal interactions with their own species. So this was damaging literally to their psychology for the rest of that animal's life, putting this animal in solitary confinement for long periods of time. I mean, it's literally torture. So I mean, we are, and that's what we're up against. When you talk about mother's instinct to protect their child, or father's instincts, or common sense, or just the idea of how we treat sexual deviance. And I mean sexual deviance is sexual harm, not the idea of, oh, you're different than me, so you're deviant. No, the idea of you actually harming another human through sexuality, through their sexuality. We have these extreme taboos about that, right? We view pedophilia and rape as these horrible, horrible things, close to murder. We consider it in our society as horrible as murder. But yet this one little thing that is every bit as horrible as that, like Lloyd Schofield had this one statement that just cracked me up. He said, I'd rather be fondled by a Catholic priest than mutilated by a mohel.
Yeah, I recognize.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, duh, like common sense, right? Like molestation, which we consider to be horrific, and it creates psychological damage to these children. It does. It creates damage to these children, is less harmful than circumcision. That's, I don't know. It's hard to get people to put this in perspective and to see it relative to the other ideas that they have in their life.
And to think that parents, the Catholic Church was sued over that.
Right.
Now, does that mean that the Jewish church can be sued?
Yeah, I don't know. I do. Let me. I have a controversial opinion about this. I think that a lot of us should take this position, and I think it's a temporary position, and I'll explain it. But I think the low hanging fruit within this debate is not religion; it's the medical community. Okay, and I think that's the low hanging fruit because they're the ones with the weakest argument.
Yeah.
Like
their
arguments.
We have lots of medical people that are on our side. So.
Yeah, I mean, but the medical excuses are so weak. Yeah. I could put anybody in front of me. Put anybody in front of me. I don't care if he's Einstein of pediatricians. I will destroy him in a debate against this. If he's for it and I'm against it, I will destroy anybody. I don't care who they are. So the low-hanging fruit is the medical establishment. A lot of us like to harp on, think about the religious aspect of this. I would be willing, and I know this is a controversial opinion, so I completely understand people saying "fuck you" on this, or I'm sorry, maybe I shouldn't say that, but saying "screw you" on this. Okay, is that I would be willing to have a law that had a religious exemption, if that was to allow us to go after the medical quacks. Okay, and here's my position in Europe. Okay, and this is my position on European intactivists. If you really want to protect the most amount of boys in America with the least amount of effort and the fastest efficiency and effectiveness, go after medical circumcision in Europe. Okay, go after the doctors that are doing it for medical reasons in Europe and make sure that the burden of proof for medical circumcision in Europe is extremely high, and start going after any doctors that are doing this for phimosis or any of those things. Make it illegal to do this procedure without an extreme need for it. And then, that will be valuable information for us if we had the medical side of Europe actually step up and say, this is not medicine. This is ridiculous. This is pseudoscience at best. This is trivial. The benefits are trivial. The amount of cutting off a foot to prevent a stubbed toe. I mean, This is crazy. So if we were to both attack the medical side in Europe, I think that if we were to be able to make it illegal to do it as medicine in Europe, we could use that in the United States. And that would be one aspect to chip away at the United States medical establishment, because that's the low hanging fruit. That's the one that has the burden, like you said, the burden of proof, right? The one that has to prove that this is beneficial to the child the most is the medical aspect. Because religious is, how are you going to, we were talking about ingrained societal behaviors for long periods of time. And here's the thing, and here's why I think this would be more effective, is if we did this and we were able to defeat medical circumcision and there was some sort of exemption with the religious community, what this is going to do is, number one, it's going to relieve the pressure of the ADL and all these other groups attacking us, right, or making this a political thing. It's going to give them some sort of, we've got this special exemption. I feel good about this, right? And then the real issue is this: when you remove the medical excuses, is what the religious excuses depend on for any legitimacy whatsoever. So the medical side is propping up the religious side. So if we wipe out the medical side, the religious side has nothing to fall back on but their own text, right? Their own belief system. Oh, I just believe this. They've lost that support of the medical side. And when that happens, you're going to lose the major support of society, and you're going to have this huge pressure of society to conform these religions, because, well, number one, men are going to start, as the evolution of this happens, and the medical side is starting to shut down. You start to have more and more men. You're going to change this. It's like that tipping point strategy of Intact America. You're going to reach that 10% a lot faster and a lot easier. That's just my opinions on it. That's kind of like why, if with NLI, we focus on the medical aspect instead of the religious aspect.
Oh yeah, I agree. And I've been thinking quite a bit about this lately on how we could get the medical side to change or make steps at least forward. Jessica Penn is an excellent example of someone that's actually made headway in this realm. If you don't know who Jessica Penn is, Jessica chose to get labiaplasty when she was 18 years old, and she got botched horribly, and she went on to find out that the medical textbooks have no information about the innervation of the clitoris. So she went on to do a lot of research and get a diagram artistically made up and all that is for the medical textbooks, and she's been getting this information put into medical textbooks and getting the right people to make sure that it is actually taught in colleges. So same sort of thing when it comes to male genitalia as well. We kind of need to try to make some inroads into the medical industry to make sure that people are taught properly. That way they can pass on the right information to, say, hello parents, like me,
right?
Instead of just not offering up any information at all. We should be requiring that people at least understand the anatomy and functions of a body part before we just say, yeah, go ahead and cut it off.
Yeah, if you're gonna go protest a hospital, go protest a university medical. Yeah. Go there and provide information. Say, look, have a sign that says, I want to teach. Do you know the structure and function of the foreskin? Just the basic, and there's hand out flyers to medical people. If we need to have some flyers that are made up for different areas for different reasons. I was thinking about this too. It's been a thought of mine, but I've been so focused on what I'm doing is having a print committee, and the print committee would do things like, for instance, I want to have Spanish flyers made up, right? Because I'm in Arizona and Nevada and California, Southern California. So if I had a Spanish flyer, I could hand that out. That's something that we need. We could have flyers for Jewish people, because we could, I think it needs to be said that, that intactivists are on the side of Jewish boys, that we want to protect Jewish children, that we care about the rights of Jewish children, and therefore we protect them, right? I mean, I'm not, when I say that we should go after the medical establishment, I'm not saying that we should never do anything with religion. In fact, I want, like you're doing the Catholic thing, I think we need to educate. Like, I want to have an outreach system that educates. The whole goal is education, right? So we need to outreach and educate the priests so that they're teaching the whole Bible. You got to tell them, like, you can't just leave out certain parts of the Bible because it fits your desires or the desires of your congregation. Yeah. You can't withhold.
I recently dealt with a urologist that's in LA that stuck up a video on TikTok that he at least he admitted that it's not cleaner. He said, no, that's not true. But he did say that it doesn't affect sex. And I was like, oh man. So what I did was I warned him and said, hey, you better take this video down or I'm going to report you to the medical board. And as far as I could tell, he never took the video down. And I even called his office and left him a voicemail and said, hey, this is who I am. I'd love to talk to you, blah, 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 but I never got a call back. So enough time went by. I went ahead and filed a report with the medical board, California Medical Board. And I got a letter back saying, basically they're dismissing it. They're not going to pursue anything with this urologist. They don't see it as a big enough problem or issue or whatever.
Damn. Huh. Yeah. Well, that's a pretty interesting avenue. I think it's because, well, here's the thing is you kind of had this, I didn't get anything done. I disagree with you, and I think
Oh
you
no,
should.
I'm not saying that I didn't get anything done.
Yeah,
I think it definitely made an impact to
yeah,
multiple
yeah.
people.
That's what I wanted to say is like I just think I think there that you may say, okay, I didn't get them to go after and do what I wanted them to do, but what you did is you educated, you got him to not at least know that there's conflicts out there, and then you also got the medical board to at least acknowledge that.
Yeah.
So if you didn't have done that, the person in the medical board wouldn't even know that there's this controversy out there. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think there's much of any effort that you can put into this movement that
That's not
is
valuable.
futile.
Yeah.
It does something.
Anytime you open your mouth.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anytime you open your mouth.
I
I
mean,
have
people
a
might laugh at me for filing a criminal complaint about what was done to me as a baby, but
that was
I
genius.
did, and my imagination is that it was probably laughed at in the police precinct, but it was probably laughed at so much that they shared it around and told everyone else, "Hey, look at this guy that he's
Yep.
complaining about his circumcision."
Right.
Ha,
Yeah.
ha, ha, ha. But it gets people thinking. It's like, well, maybe I should research this, right? Before I have my own child.
Anything that's out there that's valuable. I mean, I do want to make sure that we move towards as much efficiency and effectiveness as we possibly can, because that way we can reach more babies with the amount of time that we spend.
Yeah.
So if we can save 3 as opposed to 1, I'd rather
Yeah, we could really I know that you want dedicated serious intactivists that can put in a couple hours a week or whatever.
Yeah.
But even if someone just spends 5 to 10 minutes a day, doing a little bit more research, coming across an article, whatever that they haven't seen before,
and sharing it
on Twitter or Facebook or whatever.
Yeah, the more people doing it, that's going to be an avalanche, and they can't control that.
That only takes a few. It doesn't take very long to do that. When I'm out driving, if I'm waiting for 2 minutes, I'm looking at my phone, looking at TikTok, and seeing who I can find.
It's like a bug that you catch that I was I have a whole business I'm supposed to be developing, but I just can't stop doing this. Like I'll with my free time, that's all I do is this stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm making these databases and all this kind of stuff because it's
so much to do.
There's so much to do. There's so many things that we could be doing. That's why we could really use volunteers, because even if I wanted people to understand, like, I don't need a huge amount of time, right? Like, and this is a cool thing is Luke, and I hate to talk about something before it's really hashed out, but Luke Artanis is going to help us with developing a system, which called in business they call it a customer management system, I think.
Yeah,
EMS or something like that. Anyways, what is it? It's going to be a system that, because our program is 3 phases. For phase 1, develop the contact list, so that you have the people. Phase 2 is write the contact, or write the written word that you're going to share, the campaigns that you're going to send out, the email marketing. And number 3 is intactivism phone calls. We follow up with phone calls, surveys. There's
websites like Mojo Sells and Salesforce.
Yeah, they have similar systems like that.
Kind of stuff, but they're not free.
Yeah, but Luke is going to set us up with a system that, okay, what happens is, okay, you see I have all these I think you guys are seeing my screen. You see I have all these links right here, right? So he's going to put these in the database, so that when a person says, okay, I want to jump on here and spend 5 minutes doing NLI, okay, I'm going to do the sending part or the web form sending, they can jump on there, spend 5, 10, 15 minutes sending web forms, maybe even 5 minutes, even if it's 5 minutes. So what? You're still getting some of it done. And then you don't have to literally take over like that whole list. You would just do as much as you can, and then you sign off, and then somebody else jumps on there and they're doing as much as they can. And it's not really like you have all this pressure to do this list. You actually can just jump on and off at any time. And then we want to do the same thing with the phone calls. So the phone calls and the web forms are the 2 drainers of time. So
I've actually been having this idea to do this on Genital Autonomy Society, where someone go log on with their profile ID on Genital Autonomy Society, and then they go to a page for taking action, just random actions to take, right? And they click on that page, and a random action that just takes a few minutes, whatever, to do pops up and says, okay, click on this link and go do that. That's all you have to do. Go, click on this, or here, call this hospital, or here, call this urologist, or here, call this send a contact information to this this news site, or do this, do that, whatever. Just 5 or 10 minute tasks to do. And anytime you have 5-10 minutes to do something,
Yeah,
go here and click on
that's
it.
what I'm talking about.
And,
Exactly.
and this kind of just like leads you to it. And then we could have a database that tracks all these, logs all these activities that were done. That way they don't get
Redone.
to some extent. I feel like we should just bombard like one contact or whatever with a whole bunch of people. But in other ways, I think, well, try to spread the contacts to multiple people. But that's just an idea that's in my head. It kind of sounds like Luke is gonna do something similar in that realm. It's like,
Yeah, I think that's going to be. It's just going to make it so the barrier for somebody helping us is going to drop down dramatically. It's going to take the pressure off people. I was talking to one of my volunteers recently, and he's just like, "Man, I just had too much pressure, and like I got all this information, all this stuff, and then they feel this pressure to complete it, and then if it takes them 30-40 minutes to sit down and do it, a lot of them just kind of like, it's kind of a daunting task, right? So it just lowers the barrier to entry a little bit, making it a little bit easier, more accessible for people to do, so they don't feel pressured. So I think that's one of the most that's where we're hoping to go with that system. So we want to make it easier and simpler, as well as help improve the because right now, basically what I'll do is I'll track the conversation that I have with them with my own notes. So, and
yeah, it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Oh, and we also just probably, hopefully by the time you guys see this, I've got to get a few things, like I have to buy this software thing before I can do this. But the education library, when you go here, okay, and right now there's not that much in the library. The anatomy, structure, and function, the psychology, harm. These two right here are the most important. Yeah. Oh, you can't see the screen?
Yeah, I'm seeing you.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I'm sorry. I forget this. I have to share this. Let me do this. Okay. Okay. Now, do you see my screen? Okay. Is it filling up your whole screen?
No, it's only, you got split screen right now.
Okay. Let me undo that. I didn't know if that was showing up on your screen. Okay. Now you got the whole screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, this right here, even though I have 2 pages filled into this, these pages are fantastic information for both the structure and function. I don't know why this link are not working very well, but anyways, if you need any information on structure and function, go here. This has the most important information on structure and function. If you go down that page and you learn everything on it, you will know almost everything you need to know about the anatomy, structure, and function. Yeah. And the same thing for the psychological harm. This will take you through a journey to understand what this really does. And this is probably the most important journey of intactivism, is taking that step to understand how this affects us throughout our lives psychologically. Okay. This kid's face right here, you see that kid's face? Like, this doesn't just go away. The idea that this somehow goes away. This literally, and these studies show it. Some of these are the highest quality studies. Some of these are from Harvard. They show you that there's actually structural changes that they've verified scientifically in the brain structure. Okay, there's PTSD information. You just got to go through that. Anyways, in addition to that information, we will, on this education page, this page right here, we will have a intactivist education area. I think I'm gonna readjust this so it's gonna be more obvious. But I'll have an intactivist education area that's gonna have the 10 videos for intactivist basic knowledge. We're going to create that into a course for intactivists. We're also going to turn it into a course for midwives and doulas. And our goal with the midwives and doulas course is to get it to become what's called continuing education units, or get CEUs, which, if you understand those types of industries where you have to get certifications to become a member of the professional class, there's what we call continuing education units, which are units that a person has to go through every 2 or 3 years to recertify their license. So we hope to get that education system that's going to go out to the intactivists and for the doulas and midwives to be a continuing education unit for doulas and midwives, and we also want to make it free. So most continuing education units that you pay for, that you're going to have to pay for, we're going to have a certification, I think an intact friendly doula like IFD or IFM or something like that, that we can give them a little cert that you can say you can use our certification alphabet letters now, you know what I mean, to denote your qualifications. And we'll actually have a whole system that they can then educate themselves on this stuff. But anyways, so we're going to have that, but also in the intactivist education area, which is going to come up sooner than later, is probably the next one I'm going to work on, is going to be about the different phases of how we're doing our structure and how a person can make their own systems like that, like I'm doing right here. Because maybe someone doesn't like me. They're like, you know what? I love these ideas, but Daniel's an asshole. I don't want to be anywhere near him. So I can't stand him. Can't stand the sight of him. In that case, you can still learn from this, and you can go on and you can reproduce what we're doing, and you can do it on your own. You can do the same exact thing that we're doing, and take a subject, take an area of intactivism that you want to focus on, whether it's religion, politicians, social media, people, or, I'm sorry, I was going to say YouTube stars, whatever group that you want to focus on, you need to create a database. Okay. You need to have a phase one, which is the database creation. If you have a product, and that's the biggest thing, is you got to have a list to sell to. Without a person to sell to, without advertising, without marketing, you're not going anywhere. So we need to market that system, and that your list is the most important aspect of developing that system, right? So no matter who you are, no matter what aspect of intactivism you're doing, you need to develop a list, right? Whether it's, even if you have a website, you need to have a pop-up. Let me do I'll do an incognito window so you can see that my pop-up. And I just recently had found out that it's not working correctly, but so I have to redo it. It's just frustrating because the software that redoes it, I have to pay for. Okay, anyways, this is the pop-up list right here. Can you guys see this? I think I'm still on screen share, right? Anyways, can you see that, John?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, so this is the join our mailing list, right? And you just jump in there, you join our mailing list, and then it gives us your email and a way to contact you. So that's kind of an example of basic list building. That's very simple, but it's on a website. I think in order to be really effective at this, you need to do outreach. Okay, you need to go out there and grab the information. So you have to actually do the database development part. Okay, so you get the database. Then after that, you have to have a campaign. So you write out a series of campaigns, whatever it is that's in your heart, right? Yeah. If you're really good with Christian religion, there's a lot to say about that. You could have like PhD level discourses about Christian religion and circumcision, right? That's one of the interesting things about this subject, is that the depth of this, if you really want to like dive deep into this, and like I'm still scratching the surface myself, but you could literally study this for a lifetime to understand all of the intricacies behind this very, very simple, easy to understand, both mechanically, structurally, and anatomically, very easy to understand tissue. But there's, when it comes to the human side of this, the human need to perpetuate it, the human need to fit in, the desires to be within our social peers, and all that stuff that goes into that. That's where there's one statement that we don't need to study circumcision, we need to study the circumcisers. I forgot who said that. Was that Ron Goldman? I don't know. That's a pretty strong statement. We need, instead of studying the circumcision, we need to study the circumcisers, which is true. Like, who the hell is doing this, right? But anyways, I think, let's see, the education, I wanted to mention that. So that's going to be coming out in the future, where it's going to be specifically for intactivists. So, yeah. So anyways, any other thoughts you wanted to say about that, John?
No, it's been great.
Okay.
Well, hopefully the recording worked, and
right.
To YouTube, and others can watch it, and maybe it'll draw some more.
Have some ideas or whatever.
People to volunteer to work with you on the.
Yeah, we need volunteers, man. And like I said, even if wherever you're at in intactivism, whatever skills you have, we've had some fantastic help from people that have special skills. For instance, Luke Artanis just recently set up a what's called Mautic, which is a free open source marketing system. It's kind of like MailChimp. MailChimp, we have a list of about 23,000 people right now, or 23,000 emails, and that's including everything that we've been doing over the past couple of years. So that's a lot, and these are high quality emails. Like these are going to somebody that's got a bachelor's degree and is either a reporter or a midwife or a psychologist or something. Anyways, where was I going with that? I think I've kind of beaten a dead horse by now. Yeah. But anyways, I was mentioning how we got support from other people like Paul Settlemeyer. He's an expert at sales. He's a 30-year sales guy. And I still need to implement. I still need to work on what he taught us because it's kind of counterintuitive for me. Yeah. I'm like the instructor type. I'm going to give you the lowdown, right? And he thinks that the better approach is to, like you said, John, is to ask questions, is to get their feelings and their opinions so that you understand where they're coming from. I think that's really, really valuable. So I need to work on that myself. But Paul is really going to help. He really, really helped us and me put together the system that we already have the videos. I already have a bunch of videos on this stuff that I think some of them are up yet. I don't know if it's up, but there's one on that Paul did that's going to be part of when I have this web page put together. Anyways, with the intactivist stuff, it's going to have Paul's system, and the script that we're going to be using are based off of Paul's system. So, for instance, the first script when we first make the first phone call, okay, we're utilizing the FGM to MGM campaign. There's 6 emails in the series. Like I said, if you want to read them, go on my blog. The last one I haven't written yet, which is the 6th email. The 4th and 5th are going to be broken into 2. So I'm sorry, the 4th one right now on my blog is going to be broken up into 2. And those will be way better by the time I write them. So I hope, even though that 4th blog on there is really good, read it. I'm going to make it better. But anyways, so those are going to be the 5 emails. So at the end of that, we're going to call them. And the call is going to be a lot of people, they assume that we're going to get on there and browbeat people. No, we're going to get on there and develop relationships with these people. We want to recognize the inherent flaw of all humans, this desire to fit in, right? We want to recognize that, and we want to give them time to, there's 6 emails that are going out to them, whether or not they read them or not. It's going to give them time to think about it, right? And to mull things over. And then when we call them, instead of it being a high pressure, we're going to teach you something, it's going to be a survey. So we're going to say, hey, we are a children's rights group. We're just trying to educate people. We sent you a series of emails. We saw that you opened 3 of them, but you didn't read the last 3. What did you think about these emails? How did they influence your thoughts? Was there a reason why you didn't read the 4th one? How could we write these better to better help protect children? And it's just going to be about feeling them out and doing a survey of that person, and then utilizing that to then improve what we send to them and send out to them in the future. What I envision sending to them next, so after we're done with the FGM to MGM campaign, and this is 20,000 emails, a huge number of web forms, thousands of phone calls, if we can get to those, we're going to do as much as we can. After that, we're going to do, okay, so we do our 6 weeks of this is the ideal world. Right now, we're not doing it in 6 weeks because the bottleneck is sending the web forms right now. We're in phase 2. So, but once that's done, we're going to spend about 3 weeks time doing nothing but phone calls. And that's when we're going to do the surveys. And I think the surveys are kind of be like the coup de grace. You know what I mean? It's going to really push this into their forefront of their mind. It's going to really create, we've kind of created those little initial feelers, and this is going to create an anchor, something that we can move from the future, that we can take these people that if we push them up front, that they would resist us, but we can kind of go around that resistance and hopefully garner them into our side and help them to accept the reality of the world that we live in correctly, so that we can literally protect the people that are more important, who are the children. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, that's kind of like where we're at, where we're going. The last thing I wanted to say is the next campaign will be about anatomy, structure, and function. We did have a debate whether or not to start with psychology because of the pain, but how do you understand the pain if you don't understand the anatomy, right? If you still think it's a little flap of tissue like your fingernail and you just clip it off, and then us talking about the pain isn't going to motivate you very well. But if you understand it's half the surface area, it's extremely innervated. It removes the most sensitive part. It's no matter if you do the dorsal nerve block, the emuletic cream or whatever, or sucrose or whatever type of anesthesia you're using, that child will feel pain, because this is such a complex organ. When people understand that, then we're going to hit them with the psychology. And there's some extremely powerful things in psychology. For instance, Pat Brown told me about the Cancer study. I don't know if you guys have ever heard about the Cancer study. The Cancer study is a study that they did of Turkish boys before and after circumcision. If you understand psychology, there's a school of psychology called psychoanalysis. I'm saying it wrong. Psychoanalysis. Blah, blah, blah. Anyways, it was developed by Freud. Psychoanalysis, right? That's the right way to say it. It was developed by Freud, and it's his theory of the ego and the id and the subconscious. Anyways, so they go through and they have these kids draw these pictures, and they show the before and after pictures, and you can see dramatic differences in the psychological expression of the child immediately before and after.
In the Philippines too.
Yeah, that's a very yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. There's the ACE, the Adverse Childhood Experiences studies done by Harvard. I mean, that's that image that I don't know if you are. I don't want to go searching for it, but that image that I had of the ACEs, the Adverse Childhood Experiences, came right off Harvard's website. Yep. That describes how this literally creates lifelong psychological damage.
The same school that fired Eric Comfort.
What's that? Oh, yes, exactly. They stomp on their own balls, right? It's crazy. It's just open mouth, insert foot. It's just crazy. I mean, they literally do Trump themselves, right? But what else was I going to say? Oh, can you imagine? Just imagine this. Just think about this. As an intactivist, okay, imagine we, with just the list that we've got right now, and we run 3 campaigns. Imagine the phone calls you're going to have after the 3rd campaign. Imagine the telephone calls you're going to have. This is your 3rd call to this person, right? This is a person who's read the 1st email series, read the 2nd email series, who's read the 3rd email series. They're in like Flynn. Imagine the conversations you're going to have with that person. Hey, Dr. So-and-so, do you mind if I record this conversation? You know what I'm saying? We're going to get people on our side, and these people are going to be like, what the fuck? Just like us. You know what I'm saying? They're going to come around just to get to our stages where we're at of our own development. They're going to get there just like us if we help them like this. And these are people with education of influence, right? These are people with that are, that can influence the society around them. And I think that by it's kind of like a surgical strike. Okay, rather than just going after the grunt in the foxhole, we're going after the generals. We're going after the upper crust of the enemy. And so to say, our goal is, we're like the CIA. We're gonna go in there and we're gonna infiltrate, and we're gonna what do you call it when you cultivate a spy or something? I don't know what they call that, but we're gonna cultivate somebody into our side, and we're gonna help them see the light. You know what I'm saying? And I think that to me, it's just I'm extremely excited about this. I imagine by the 3rd campaign that that people are going to start to see how powerful this is, because I know how powerful it is. Like we ran a campaign during the Southern College protest tour of Bloodstained Men in 2019. Okay, and we ran a campaign, and we were, and I'm not saying that we did it all, because Bloodstained Men have their own media outreach and they did their own stuff, so they were definitely the star of the show. But we were influential by communicating with media, and I know we talked to people that they didn't talk to because they told us. They said, we didn't know that there was a protest happening tomorrow. No, we didn't know that. So we got that repeatedly, and I was the only one making the phone calls. But anyways, so we got 15 articles printed in one tour. 15 articles printed, and I don't know the Bloodstained Men statistics, but I think that's way beyond their past. I think that's a record, in my opinion. I don't know. Maybe they got 20 in 2014. I don't think so. But the thing is is this this is so much different than, I'll say it a million times. I'm not dogging people that do social media. You are essential. You are very important. I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for social media. But this is so much more powerful than spending 15 minutes, debating with a cutter, spending 15 minutes talking with somebody who's had 3 campaigns, who knows the anatomy, structure, and function, who's a PhD, who has read every email we sent them, right? Who's already had 3 phone calls from us. Imagine the difference of that between sitting there and bitching at some cutter mother who has the IQ of a fish and who has the education level of a 3rd grader.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a different intactivism. Now, it's not a. I'm going to say one more thing. And I know I'm talking my ear out, talking your ear out. It's going to be a different. It's going to be a different response in the people that are doing it. So the people that are volunteering for me to do the tele-intactivism phone calls, you're going to have in my opinion, some fantastic experiences that are going to leave you feeling like you just won the lottery, like you just did something real, as opposed to like feeling like a dirty laundry after being, told that that it's dirty and ooey, you know what I mean, and having to deal with that level of dregs of society. It's just,
it can be
I'm trying to get people to see the value of it, because it is something that takes a little bit of effort and work, and we're not there yet. We're not doing the phone calls yet. But once we get there, I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be more interested in doing the phone calls than they are in sending web forms, and hopefully, because that's really a bottleneck that we need. So if you're an intactivist and you're educated and you have some knowledge on this and you want to be there when these phone calls happen, you maybe want to make some of these phone calls yourself. You can. I tell people I record every phone call, but whether or not I use it, I'll delete it if they don't. If I get to the end, and I'll say, "Hey, do you mind if I record a statement of yours?" And what I've done with that is I'll get them to say yes. And if they agree to me recording a statement, then I'll keep the recording. We're fine. If they say, but I don't want to tell them up front. I know this is maybe considered illegal. Someone might consider it illegal. But no police are going to break down your door and say, "You just recorded that, didn't you?" Okay, so you can get away with it, and you can delete it. You're not going to share it on social media. I think the illegal part is when you actually share it. Okay, so I use it for my own internal. Yeah, I'll record it, and then I'll listen to them, and I'll use it for my own. My own feedback, so I can record it and say, "Oh, okay, should have said this, or I could have done this better," and it helps me to become better as an activist. Also, because a lot of these people that are going to say yes and they're going to start to agree with it, and then we can start to share those with other intactivists, and other intactivists can see that we're having this type of response from these people of influence, and then we can really show people that, hey, this is a very legitimate system. This is a entire turnkey ready system that anybody can jump in there. They can either just jump on our backs and just join with us. They can start their own system. They could follow their own passion. They could do something like Paul and contribute this expert sales knowledge. They can do something like Luke Artanis and contribute their expert tech knowledge. We need a graphic designer. We need a web designer. We need all sorts of things. There's no limit to the potential of someone to really contribute to this intactivism and do it in a smart way that can reach thousands and thousands of babies. I think if we really follow this system and we start sharing this and we get other intactivists to do it, whether it's with NLI or whether it's on your own, or if it's just taking the backbone system we've created and doing it yourself for your own desires or whatever, I think that we can make a massive influence in improving intactivism so that it's more effective and efficient. And I think that we can bump up that period of time when we finally, when society finally, I think we can speed up that time when we finally recognize this as a horrible evil. You know what I'm saying? That we finally recognize it is for what it is. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is, what it is. When people can recognize it, and I'm talking about even intactivists, because I get intactivist feedback who says, "Oh, you shouldn't be angry about this," or whatever. And I'm like, how can you not be? Like, I don't understand people who are not angry about this. Like, if you understand this, you're going to be angry about it. And I know there is a better way of broaching the subject with new people, right? There, rather than just going off on people, there's a better way of broaching the subject with new people. But once you got past that initial stages, and if they're entrenched in their belief systems, showing them your feelings on this, that this damaged you, that this is harmful for you, that you're angry about it, is not a bad thing.
Absolutely.
I think it's it needs to be said, because until people see people mad about this, until people see that, and they say, oh, I can't say that I've never seen a man mad about this anymore. But if you just sit there and say, you know what, we need to kumbaya, and we need to get more flies with honey, that type of thing, and then you're telling intactivists not to show their anger, I think what's happening is you're reinforcing that behavior, that this is not as damaging as it really is. Right? You're not accepting this for what it really is, and you're seeing it through some sort of lens that has been influenced by your culture. It means you're not fully wrapping your mind around it. You know what I'm saying? So we have to make concessions for the men. And we're talking about men with testosterone, with balls, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about men. We're not talking about, we're talking about the male of the species, where men have the ability to actually put their feelings out there and have it respected, have their anger not jumped upon and, oh, you shouldn't be saying this, you're going to harm us. No, saying, you know what, you're right to be angry about this. I understand your anger. Let's focus this anger. Let's channel it. Let's make it positive, but let's at least communicate it. We have the right to communicate it, but I think there's better ways of communicating it. So it's just what I try to do is I want to I see this huge push against the anger of intactivist men. Okay, I see this huge push against that we're not supposed to be angry about this. That if we come out aggressive and angry, I mean, I'm blocked on so many platforms.
I just bumped up into this argument plenty of times. And I particularly, and this has come up with the bodyguards, with people outside the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are really toxic angry about this, blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, well, put yourself in our shoes. It's a little different here in the U.S. than it is in most other countries. And look at who was voted into presidency so long ago, who was very verbal, right? Trump is I'm talking about, and that's the kind of thing that people respond to in this country. So why not have them to these men that are angry, and these men should be confident in sharing their not be worried about gaslit or whatever.
I mean, think about it this way: you should respond the same way you would respond to a girl being cut. So how would you respond to that? You know what I mean? You should respond the same way. It's literally the same thing. And I think that we need to, because as men wrap their minds around this, we're going to have a lot more of that anger. And I think we need to really consider, because I mean, I'm almost infamous for my anger. So, I don't want that. That's not really the best thing.
Here's my message to people about this that want to try to stamp out our anger or hold down our anger. That's only going to make things worse.
Yeah.
We're only going to get more angry when we're denied our feelings.
Exactly.
Our feelings are not valid or whatever.
Or they're not. It's exactly. I totally get that, because it's the same thing as it's just denial. But on any other aspect, I mean, we would recognize that as being harmful for any. That's why I'm saying this thing, it violates every aspect of belief that we hold for ourselves as a society. It violates everything. It trumps everything. That's a really good word these days. It trumps everything we believe about ourselves, that we're good people, that we're compassionate, that we care about our children, that we are against sexual abuse of children, that we think intelligently, that we have morals, that we that we are good people, that a man's a man in America. He's brave and he's strong. You're not brave if you will lie to yourself to harm a child. You are not brave at all. You have not a brave cell in your body. If you would harm,
definition of being a man.
if you would harm a child to protect your own ego, because that's what it really is. You know, like these men, I don't accept a man telling me that he's fine. I don't accept that. Some people will say, "Oh, well, I'm glad you're okay with it," but these children, da, 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 da. No, I just say, you know what? That's the most ridiculous thing you could even say. That's crazy talk. Like I don't even accept it as reasonable. Like my own cousin and my own uncle, they are like, you know, like I got that pushback from my family. Oh, it's not that big a deal. Why are you making a fuss out of it? Da, 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 da. I'm fine. I'm not missing anything. I'm just like, you guys are like, I just straight up call them like, you're in denial. It's pathetic. You know, this is a pathetic position to take. It's astronomically stupid.
I said something the other day on a TikTok. It's like, you're not just defending your own dick, dude. You are defending a ritual of cutting children's genitalia. That's just sick.
Exactly. It's psychosis. It's crazy talk. It's literally the weirdest shit in the planet. And here we are just doing it unabatedly without question to our little children. It's just abomination of every type of intelligence, of every type of moral stature, or every type of moral position, of everything that we value as humanity. It violates everything. Like this is, I mean, it's just so disgusting. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to be part of a culture that thinks this about children. It's embarrassing to be part of a culture that does this. Like I'm like shocked and embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for men that sit there and say that they're fine with this. I'm like, well, first off, you're coming from complete ignorance because you have no clue what you're missing. You have not the slightest clue of anatomy information. You don't even know anything about this. You have no knowledge base to come to say that. So you have no experience with the tissue. You have no education of the actual structure and function. And all you have are just myths that you've been told, but you think you're so invested in those myths that you will blurt them out at the top of your lungs, imagining that you have something to contribute. And you just completely make yourself look like an imbecile, like a complete and utter psychologically psychotic child abuser, idiot, coward, less than any man that you could possibly imagine. Like this is, you just literally went and chopped your own balls off.
At the very least, respond and ask. Yeah, one of the questions that is very memorable to me is like, but how is it bad though? Like, that's a good question. Yeah. That is, that's better than coming back and saying, "Oh, I'm okay, I'm fine," or whatever.
Yeah.
Asking how is it bad? Hey, 16 years ago, I didn't know how it was bad.
Right.
Yeah, that is an open-minded, forward-thinking.
Yes.
Open. You're wanting to learn. You're wanting to understand why these men are complaining.
Oh, let me say this real quick. That's what Paul was teaching us: an open-ended question. Yeah. So what, how, those types of questions. So you're very intuitive about that, which I respect about you. And so you're kind of on that. Paul's doing the same thing. I'm like, nobody knows this information, so I'm the one that's going to blurt it out. You know what I mean? Like that's my type of thing. I'm educated. I'm going to share this knowledge with you. But what I really see is there's got to be a balance, right? There's got to be, and I'm just thinking from my own perspective, what's going to make me better? What's going to make me more effective? What's going to get rid of my ego? Maybe my ego's angry at this, so I approach it from an angry perspective, and then I want that validated and I want it respected. You know what I mean? And so when it's not, then I get more angry, and then pretty soon I'm blocked from social media, and that's not going to, that's not benefiting me. I mean, it is, to be honest with you. The best thing that could ever happen to me was being blocked from social media, because now I'm doing this full time. I'm not wasting any more time doing that. I was wasting a lot of time on Facebook.
Oh yeah.
A lot of time on Facebook.
All day, every day with this stuff.
That could have been spent way better. I mean, it feels, like you are doing something. You are reaching people, and it is making a difference, and you probably saving a child. And if you save a child, you are, I mean, if you save one child from this, I have the utmost respect for you.
Yeah. And I hope that works kind of like multi-level marketing. I teach one person, that person teaches three.
Exactly. I tell people that myself. I tell my volunteers that. I'm like, look, this is multi-level marketing. When you have that friend call you and say, hey, you haven't heard him for a while, and you're like, oh wow, Eddie's calling me. I haven't talked to Eddie in so long. I can't wait to talk to Eddie. I'm so glad that he's calling me just to talk to me. This is, Eddie's thought about me today. We haven't talked in a long time. He's calling me just to connect with me. And the first thing Eddie says when he gets, I have an opportunity for you. And as soon as he says that, shit, Eddie didn't call me to find out how I'm doing or to touch base with me or to reconnect with me or because he thought about me. Eddie's calling me because he thought about himself and he wants to sell me something, right? So that's the multi-level marketing. And, we've all been through that. We've all had those friends and we're just disappointed when they call. And so this is the same thing. I want you to imagine you're doing multi-level marketing, but there's no letdown in the middle of the marketing thing, right? Let's say, me and you, John, we're sitting here, right? And we get one person to help us out doing what we're doing, right? So while we're not working, that person's working, right? Or they're doubling our time. If we're working at the same time, it's double the work that's being done. Okay, just by you getting this person to join with you, right? And if that, I tell my volunteers, if you get one volunteer, right? And I tell my volunteers, I think every volunteer that I have will be responsible through this system to save thousands of babies. You will literally be responsible just by volunteering with us to save thousands of babies. So let's say you're a volunteer, but you don't have time, but Sally, and she's great. She's going to be the type that's she can see the value of it. She understands the marketing of it. She's dedicated. She cares about, she's motivated because she cares about saving children, and she's going to be the perfect person for you. So they send me Sally. Then Sally, through NLI, the system that we created, or the systems that all of us intactivists have created, it's not just me, then saves thousands of babies. Well, guess what you did? You saved thousands of babies by telling Sally, hey, go join NLI, Sally. You literally, through that little Sally, go join NLI, you saved thousands of babies. I mean, just think about that.
Yeah, sure.
Think about the potential in that, right? I mean, because there's so many professionals out there, that groups that we could target: child psychologists, injury lawyers, judges and politicians, think about injury lawyers, right?
Yeah.
The greediest people on the planet. And you're showing them the largest medical fraud in human history. The gears are gonna start turning in these people, right? Just imagine the value of having an outreach program just targeting, and every injury lawyer has a comment section on their website. Okay, and the comment section, the web forms, that won't get sent to spam. It goes directly to their inbox. So no matter what, they're getting an inbox through their comment section. You can go to any injury lawyer in your state and just start sending out a whole campaign to injury lawyers. But we don't want to just have a bunch of people randomly just going out and contacting people. We want to do it in a system, in an organization, in an organized way, so that you can target that person, you can target that list, and then you can treat them just like a customer, like a business would a customer. You can go and you can send them campaigns. You can follow up survey, phone calls. You can see where they're at. You can see what information they need. Then you can target them with certain valuable information. Maybe this person is not motivated by the sexual loss. Maybe they care more about the psychology of the child, right? Ron Goldman actually did a video on this where he talked about that. He's like, I'm a man. I'm going to care about the loss, right? So I care about the sexual loss, right? A woman might not care about the sexual loss for me. She might care about the pain of the child, right? And that may be her motivation. And I'm not saying that women and men have to do these certain things. I'm just saying that people are different, right? So that knowledge, that information is going to help us target these people. We're going to treat this just like an internet marketing business, right? We're going to treat this just like a business, and it's going to run like a business. And we can franchise this business. We can send it out to other people. They can do the same thing. They can piggyback on us. They can use someone can go on my website, take down my blogs and start sending out information. If you don't want to write your own, or you could write your own, you could send it out yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that we need to have a voice. We need to have a way of outreaching this information. And I think that's what we need. So, all I see is a huge potential, a huge potential, and no matter
one of the things that we could do is, like, the volunteers that you usually get onto your calls.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll be one of them again in the future. But
I'd like to have you on.
Have those volunteers go get more volunteers. Like,
exactly.
For instance, we could just copy the list of websites of news organizations and say, like, Pennsylvania or whatever. In order to notify these news organizations of, Blood Save Men is going to be there, or hey, there's a new billboard up or whatever. and just copy it and paste it into a post in Facebook on on the intactivist top circumcision group, whatever it
Right.
was, amen,
Yeah. You
group,
can use
whatever.
hashtags.
Yeah,
Have you heard of you know what hashtags?
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure you're way more IT than I am. But in Taxivist using hashtags, you can for instance, I have a list of targeted hashtags. One is geared towards
Mm,
new mothers, so it's got like dad and
yeah,
mom, hashtag dad, mom, creating new generating new interest. Another one is geared towards intactivists. So, like for instance, intactivist organizations, Saving Sons, Intact America, Your Whole Baby. I have a bunch of hashtags with that. Intactivism, intactivists, genital autonomy, and I just put a bunch of those hashtags, and then those will populate into those areas, and so those people that are searching those specific hashtags will see. So hashtags are a way of
yeah,
vastly.
absolutely. Like I'll use certain hashtags to break out of our bubble, right? Like
Yes,
med TikTok or med Twitter or parents of TikTok or
genius.
parent life or all these other things that people search for
Yeah,
to become a better parent or become a better medical professional or whatever.
and in that aspect, you're also breaking out of that little algorithm limitation that we're dealing with
Yeah,
from these corporations. So yeah, that's a very powerful thing is the hashtags things. Um, Interestingly, I'll say one more thing and then I'll let you guys go. I went on Parlor because I'm blocked on everything else, and I went on one thing and I said, and it was talking about politics or something. And I said, why do you care about politics when your children are being genitally mutilated? Isn't that more important? And I got 17 likes, and some of these people were like, I was like shocked. It was like Ann Coulter followers and Trump supporters, and they liked it. I was like, what? It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
But
Here's
anyways,
another one for you. Have you ever heard of Whisper?
no, I haven't.
Yeah, it's a it's a pretty good one. That's your here it is. Um,
Is that a new app or something?
it's been around for a while.
I think I've heard of it.
It's kind of like that. It has these. Always use images, and then you put a. Let's see if I can get it full screen here. And maybe not. Oh, here we go. You have an image with some text on it, and someone just writes something randomly or whatever,
Oh,
and
that's cool.
it just kind of randomly gets out there in the ether or whatever. Um, and sometimes it's questions or whatever. Like the other day, I got a question. See if I can hear someone heard my whisper. They come on. I guess I can't see the root whisper, but they said something about if you could change the world or something, what would you want to be known for changing? And I said, well, advocacy for genital autonomy. And then this is one of the things I did recently. I'm looking here on screen, but the genital autonomy, child for genital autonomy symbol. I got it out there, so if you do a search on Whisper or other places, well, first of all, you can do a reverse search for the image, and it'll link you to like Genital Autonomy Society, Genital Autonomy America.
So it's Whisperer or Whisper?
Just Whisper.
Whisper. Whisper.com?
Yeah. Well, it's a Android iPhone app,
Sure.
and so also now in Whisper, if I'm looking for an image to have in the background of my text, I can just type in genital autonomy and it pops up now. And now and ever actually since when I first did this, when I first figured out that nothing was really popping up when you type in genital autonomy, I got the icon added so it shows up. But now more and more things are showing up like these books from Marilyn Milos and team, right? So
I have
books,
that book too. That's
these
a
images
fantastic book.
for these books are showing up as well. So more and more stuff is showing up when you just search for genital autonomy on Whisper.
See, this is what I'm talking about, man. This is awesome. Like when we like sit there and come up with these ideas, like we can be intelligent about this. You know what I mean? We can really have plans that are effective and efficient and are powerful. We as intactivists, like we can police ourselves and make ourselves more effective. You know what I'm saying? you know, we have to utilize modern technology correctly. You know, just doing social media, just doing, and if that's just your thing and that's your spiel, I am like, again, I am not talking down against you. I'm just saying that I need to pull a few of you away from that, to do something that's probably more likely to be more powerful than that. So if you want to do more than that, if you want to reach more, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be doing it, because I think it's essential, and I think it's very powerful. I mean, I'm on different ones. I'm on Parlor. I'm going to get on a couple of them. I'm just going to get on some of the new ones just to mess around when I have free time, but I don't have much of it. But I just do need to get some people away from that little matrix of social media and get them to do something with sending these web forms. And if I can get that, and then I can get some people on these
It's
phone
another
calls.
form of social media, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
You can also go out to like Twitter and find news organizations and tweet at those news organizations and say,
oh yeah.
hey, NBC News or ABC News, hey, did you know what's going on over here? You know, and then tag like Bloodstained Men or whatever, so that gives them a lead. It's like, oh, this is interesting. This is going to happen here in this town, and he gave me the link to the organization that's dealing with it. So click, hey, there's Bloodstained Men or Intactivism or whoever, whatever, you know, right there on Twitter, and it's you know very short and sweet.
Well, the sad thing is I didn't I when I did this database on Pennsylvania, is I didn't do the Twitter or social media, just because I've just been so swamped with the emails and the web forms. But like if I had another volunteer, you know, you could say, look, I'll do the social media, because I was doing social media until Pennsylvania, which means every other site that I have has all the social media. So I have more social media than you can shake a stick at.
Well, a lot of times when you click on those forms, those web forms, those contact me web forms, whatever, there's a link right there for their Twitter or what.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of reporters that have Twitter accounts and stuff like that you can get on. Like there's so many avenues out there. It's just, you know, just pick one and do it. And to be honest with you, even if you're like, if you just have social media time, keep doing that. You know what I mean? You're doing something. Keep sharing this, but don't ever be quiet. Don't ever not say something.
Again, we can use thousands of volunteers just doing, you know, limitless numbers of things. There's so many people that can be contacted or need to be contacted.
Yeah.
About this, you know, not just news organizations, but doctors and nurses and political people. The political side is a little tough because not very many political people are going to be willing to go down this road.
Well, here's how you fix that issue. You want to know how you fix that issue?
Okay.
You go to the Southern politicians in the Southwest.
Really?
Your issue's fixed. No, seriously, you find Hispanic politicians, an intact Spanish politician, and you say, look, these doctors are forcing this on your children. They're trying. You have to be aware. They're doing forced retraction. They're not properly educated. They're forcing this. Me and Brother K, when we were, I was at the Anaheim protest. We were doing a protest in Anaheim, and this gentleman walked past us, and he was, Mexican man, and we talked to him, and apparently a doctor told him it was the most important health thing he could do for his child, telling an intact man this, who's never had a problem with his penis, telling an intact man that this is the most important thing you can do for your child's health. He did the circumcision and ended up taking a third of his glands away, so the child's in constant pain. So yeah, I think it was a Morgan clamp, and they took a third of his glands away. So this kid's in constant pain, and this is a man from a non-cutting culture who was lied to by a doctor, and you can tell this to politicians. Say, look, this is happening. This is happening. That there's doctors that are doing forced retraction on these little children. You know, they say 43% of intact men in America have been forced retracted at some time in their life. Prematurely forced retracted, 43%. That's a huge number of people.
You know, these politicians, they have clout where, you know, they might not be able to like get a law passed right now in the U.S., but they can. I mean, there are certain laws they could come up with if they, you know, get creative.
Well, but, I mean, like I said,
they can reach out to the medical boards or the hospitals and say, hey, you know, you guys aren't educating these parents well enough. You know, you need to improve your informed consent process.
Exactly, that would be a fantastic
having
law.
that come from a politician should have some, you know, power make them at least think about change, improving their.
See, that's a position we could take there. I mean, like for instance, the San Francisco effort to stop doctors from circumcising. If I know it's grating and it's horrible, and it makes no sense because it goes against everything that it is to be an activist. But if we had a religious exemption in there, I think we might have been able to pass that law. You know what I'm saying? And I think just passing that law in some locale somewhere
Yeah,
would be beneficial,
I guess
even
it's
if it
kind of
has a
like the
religious exemption.
vaccines with religious exemption thing, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a horrible thought. Like, I mean, what child has what child should be cut by an adult? It's just
well,
none,
yeah,
of
what
course.
baby is religious?
I know, but it is like I said, it's a temporary by step. So, I mean, if doing so was to save, I mean, we don't have a huge Jewish population. If doing so was to save, 95% of circumcisions to happening in that area, it's worth it. Okay, it's worth it to have a religious exemption. It's worth it to me if 95% of circumcision is going down, right? It's worth it for me if 1%, if it drops the circumcision rate by an additional 1%.
I think just getting the insurance companies to stop covering it would
Yes,
just make a huge difference. I
exactly.
mean,
That too.
that's already quite visible, and the states that don't cover it have much lower coverage rates. So.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. That's another huge thing. Yeah, I mean, there's so many avenues of approach. Someone could just come to me and say, "Look, I want to focus nothing but the Medicaid area, and I will set you up with the database. We'll make some links. We'll make some campaigns. We'll send some campaigns. We'll do some phone calls. You could open up a can of worms with that. You could go to
There's a group on Facebook for that too.
yeah. I mean, someone could be just dedicated just to doing that right there, and literally do tremendous work for intactivism just doing something like that. That's where the work is not just social media. And that's a better
Oh,
way of saying
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, I mean, social media. I worry. It's even been proven through some sort of study or whatever that we kind of have bubbles in social media,
Yeah,
and it's hard for ideas and thoughts to get outside of those bubbles.
yeah.
So you have to get creative to make sure what you're trying to
Breaking out of
do
that bubble.
breaks out of that bubble, and even more so if you can get to influential people, VIPs.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, in a lot of cases, we need to try to directly attack,
Yeah.
get that information directly to the people that.
Well, I did one thing where I trolled Elliot Hughes, who's an internet guy. He's got like 1.5 million viewers. His name is Elliot Hughes. He does like strength camp. He's a fantastic, fantastic human being. So he was doing men's rights stuff, and I went on there and men empowerment and this type of thing. And I said, how can you even mention this when the elephant in the room is sitting right in front of you? And it takes a man to recognize it. So, and I kept harping on him. He made a video that was seen by 65,000 people in response to my trolling him, and totally came out against circumcision. And it was fantastic. He did a fantastic video. His name is Elliot Hughes.
But you know what happened with Andrew Yang, right?
Andrew Yang?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a little bit about that, but I don't know all the details.
I've been involved with this group of intactivists on Twitter, and it was Jellyfish Rave that simply asked them the one question, and that's all it took.
What?
Yeah,
For
not
real?
a whole bunch of coverage on this topic.
Dude, that is genius.
Yeah.
That is genius.
He managed to catch Yang at the right time, I think, because Yang was just getting into the whole idea of being a president of the U.S. So Yang was, at this point was responding to tweets. So he responded to that one, and that just
Damn.
led to it was like a domino effect.
That's fantastic. I mean, this is literally kryptonite to politicians. Like, this is the hot potato. You throw them the hot potato, they're going to try to throw it away as quick as possible. But the thing is it's a no-win situation for a politician. There's no way for a politician to win. To take the debate or to acknowledge it, there's just no win. So if a politician comes out against it, they're going to lose a lot of people. So I understand them.
It's tough for politicians because things are coming together. Not just male circumcision, but you got the intersex and the trans stuff that's bubbling up too, and bringing male circumcision along with it, and the whole anti-FGM law. All the stuff that's happened in the past few years with that. And,
Yeah.
and Trump's administration passing or updating the anti-FGM law, it's like you can see that it's very hard for them to try to separate out by sex,
Right.
especially when you throw intersex and trans in there. It's like, how do we write this without outlying circumcision? Someone in Alabama actually proposed a law, put up a bill that actually would have done exactly that.
Yeah, I remember that. It was decriminalize any non-essential surgeries
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
minors less than 18 or something like that, which is a fantastic law.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I support that law. I mean, I support transgenders, and I support anybody of any sexual orientation. I support you 100%. But I think that like we should, a surgery is pretty dramatic, and you should be somewhat intelligent adult. And I know that 18 is maybe a high bar in some ways, maybe a low bar in some ways, and it's just a random pick, and it's not really some scientific thing or moral thing. But at some level, you have to sit there and say, you know what, you're 13, you're really not intelligent enough to start doing surgeries. As far as
some people at age 21, 25, whatever, they aren't either.
No, I get that, but let's try to figure out where the best line is, so we have the least amount of pain, the least amount of mistakes. But as far as like puberty blockers or something like that, a child has the debate about that is that all trans people know they're trans when they're 5 years old. There's no 5-year-old trans person that's playing, cars and and GI Joe and tumbling rough and tumbling with the boys that becomes 16 and says, you know what, I'm a female.
Yeah,
no,
that's
child behaviors are established in childhood. You can read child psychology.
Yeah,
and every trans person I've ever met and known, they've known when they were very young.
That just gets to the debate about what the line of age of consent should be for various things, whether it's drinking or going to the military or getting body modifications, getting a tattoo, or having sex. All these have various things depending on the state. And that's a debate I'm not really interested in having. I don't really care. I just want one thing. I want to acknowledge that we have a right to the genitalia we're born with.
Right. It's just just
simple. Stop there. If I can get that much, I'm done.
Right. I totally agree.
I'm not having everyone else hash out. When you want to.
Well, all these side issues, like there's some big huge debate in society. This is the issue with society, is that society's, the evolution of our society, religious has this huge influence, and this I see as being influential both in our issue and also in trans rights, is that this is based off of this religious system that we've culturally evolved from. So it actually makes sense as to why we do some of the things that we do, unfortunately. But it makes sense as to how horrible things could get passed. But as far as people being themselves and the way they're genetically born and biologically, people use the biological debate, it's biologically a male. Da, da, da. No, our brain structures control our behavior, and those are biologically developed. So our brain structures influence our behavior, whether we're trans or straight or gay or whatever. You're born that way. You were born that way. Your DNA is going to create. And now I know there's some people that are in the bell curve are more towards the center, and they can go either way, right? I mean, there's the complexity of humanity is fantastic. So why try to pigeonhole things? But the most important thing is, hey, when you're a child, you have the right to your own genitalia. I mean, that's just the most obvious thing on the planet. Now, whether you become trans when you're 18 or whatever, or 14, whatever it is, you want to live your life that way, I totally support you. I'll call you whatever you want to. I'll treat you with all the same respect I treat everybody else in society, because I'm a decent human being, and I realize that all these cultural beliefs are inherently caused by this religious type of indoctrination that we've received, and that's the reason why we have these types of opinions. It's the reason why this is even an issue, because in many, 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 many societies, too numerous to count, they've all recognized trans people, and in a lot of Native Americans, they use a term called the two-spirit people, where they believed they had both this male and the female spirit, and so they revered them, looked up to them, and utilized their wisdom and their knowledge because they had a very strong balance of the logical and the emotional and the intuitive, and so that's what our normal behavior is towards people of these varieties, because it's actually normal. A bell curve is part of all biology. So if you understand a bell curve in biology, you understand behaviors, biological behaviors. Like you've heard the bell curve. If you have a bunch of tall people, I'm sorry, if you look at height, right? For instance, you look at height. Well, there's very, very few people that are extremely tall, and there's very, very few people that are extremely short. And the bell curve is in the middle. That's what creates the curve itself. So as far as masculine and feminine, you're going to have some people that are in the bell curve, and you're going to have some people that are more towards the masculine side. You have more towards the feminine side. So
it's the root of genital mutilation in the first place. It's all about people want to control things. And you look at the root of FGM, IGM, MGM, it all comes down to control.
It is, right?
So,
right.
And same thing when it comes to trying to deal with the binary sex thing versus,
Yeah, it's just like, man, people are born this way. You just got to let them live and just let people live.
Why
respect.
Do people need to control this?
I don't know. I don't know. I really have no idea. Like, there was never a point in society where this horrible thing happened by these groups of trans people that denoted some reason for us to even have this debate, right? To even have this debate of, I don't know. Like, it was just a huge debate out of nowhere about, we're forced to call them a certain name. Like, who cares, right? If someone wants to be called her or she or him or whatever, like, what is the big deal? Like, how is that going to hurt you? It's just crazy, but it is.
The only area that I see it making sense, and this is happening in California right now, they're putting trans women in with women in the prison, and now women are getting pregnant because, well, hello, they have testes.
Well, I mean, let's not throw out common sense and reality. I mean,
if you have testes, okay, you gotta stay with men. I'm sorry.
Well, there's enough of them to create their own sports. There's enough of them to create their own housing within a jail cell. It's the idea that we're forced into these binary positions is ridiculous. That it's either this or that. It's just crazy. I don't think that a person that I don't know. I don't think that person should be competing like in sports and stuff like that. It's just not fair. You didn't change. You had testosterone and stuff like that influencing your body. So when it comes to sports, it's like, to me, like, just create a separate category. Like, why not? Let's have a whole trans Olympics. I mean, how fun would that be? Like, come on.
You can have women that are purely, they're straight up women that have more testosterone than another woman. And
I know there's always that debate. It's a never ending.
I like bowling, because with bowling you set up a handicap, and then what you're doing is you're kind of competing against yourself. So the way I understand it, I'm not a huge mathematician, but the idea is that when you're competing with other people, you get a handicap, and you get to compete with someone that is better than you, but you're kind of competing with them on a level playing field with them. And what you're looking for is to see if you do better than you've done before in comparison to them, right? And so you can actually beat out someone that is already known to be better than you.
Even better than you. Yeah, that makes sense. They did it in golf too, I think. Golf does that.
Yeah, handicaps.
Yeah. It makes sense.
They could do a mathematical thing. They get creative and come up with a better way of trying to deal with the sexual, stuff.
I mean, it's just hard to pigeonhole people. I mean, we are diverse, and I think it would be a very boring world if we didn't have that diversity.
Absolutely. It should be celebrated.
Right? Exactly. I am in the same belief on that. Wait, I don't want to make this video too long so that nobody watches it.
It's been great.
It's been really nice talking with you. We should do this more often, man.
Yeah.
So.
I'd love to if I only have more time. I need to get out and get driving.
And do your thing. Do your thing. Thanks, John. Thanks for the video, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Okay.
Bye.